the same kind of rules to all sorts of championships on the international scene. Now, there is a story that is emerging. Pit lane has closed. The field is headed out to take its spots on the grid for this round of the championship, which will be a 3-hour race, unlike the regular 2 1 hours that we've been enjoying in this championship since the Bathurst 12-hour at the beginning of the year. Now, the story involves, in fact, a Bathurst native, and that is Brad Schumacher, in the car that he is paired with, along with Will Brown, who drove to third place last weekend with Scott Pye for Red Bull Ampol Racing. That car, as you can see, the Schuren Partners Audi, sustained some damage earlier today. The recovery crew went to work, but unfortunately, after some assessment by the team, the time that we had available between Superpole and the actual race itself and availability of parts and so on, it means that that car is a non-starter, unfortunately, for tonight's race. And that pairing, Will Brown and Brad Schumacher, have been superb throughout 2024. So that's a story from a little bit earlier today. Let's get a snapshot of some of the others as the field enjoy a grid walk with the fans among the cars, and among it all is our good friend in Chris Stubbs.
Greg Ross, thank you very much. Also among the thick of the action at the moment is the CEO of SRO Motorsports Group Australia, Ben McMillan. Ben, always great to be racing under lights and here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Yeah, it's a fantastic facility here. Obviously some of the best lights in the country. For us, it's an awesome experience for our customers. They don't get to race at night much, so starting a race now where it's fully bright and then going into darkness should be very exciting. You have the power because you've managed to make sure that the rain has cleared in time for the start of the race. The big news this week is confirmation of the calendar for 2025. You must be thrilled to have that out in the public domain and all locked away. Yeah, very exciting. Obviously, we went out with our calendar. It was provisional back in June. So now Supercar come out, fine-tweaked a couple of things. Very exciting. 6 rounds next year. Obviously, we're launching the new platform that SRO will be running. So, yeah, very exciting times for us. All right, we look forward to that. Ben, enjoy tonight's race. Thank you. We'll leave Ben alone. We'll go and see if we can find some of our drivers. So our driver number 2, so the lower classified driver in terms of the FIA standings, is the driver that will start. So at the moment we've got Mark Sheargold and Garth Walden alongside me. How are we feeling ahead of this one? Yeah, really good, mate. It's nice to be starting off pole. I'm sure Mike won't say that. he's a little nervous, but it's good. The car's been great all weekend. The team's done a fantastic job. It was nice to drive. So, yeah, got a long race ahead. I can see the cameras just jumped in down there to get some vision on what may be some nervous eyes, we're being told. How are you feeling? Hey, Stubbsy. Yeah, look, this is a new experience for me. So, look, goal is to make it to lap 2. You know, filter in, it's a long race, and find my groove. So, yeah, looking forward to the challenge. I can see as you move your head around, the sunlight is straight into your eyes. It's going to be fun into turn 1. Yeah, look, I've done a bit of dust racing around here, being, you know, a track that we've come to with some state stuff and what have you. So, yeah, it's not in the ideal spot, but it's also not something, that is something I've had before. So, yeah. Mate, good luck with it. Thanks, Chris. Cheers, mate. All right, and alongside Paul Stokel and Renee Gracie. Renee's just getting some photos with some fans at the moment. I'll just see if I can jump on in. Renee's always popular with the fans, but we're live at the moment, so I might just see if you can just wait 1 minute, unless you want to get one with me in it as well. Renee, Paul Stokel behind the wheel here. Very, very experienced hands. Yes, he is very experienced. I've been over the moon with how Paul has gone this year, and I obviously couldn't be more grateful that he wanted to drive with me, and I think I've given him the best opportunity to just get in and go and do the best that he can, and he's obviously done a very good job. In terms of your progression, Renee, obviously we've been following it over the last couple of years as you've returned to circuit racing. How's it going? It's going really well. I am proud of myself and how far I've come. Sometimes it doesn't show, and that's getting a bit frustrating, but I think over time it's getting better and better, and I'm feeling more and more confident in the car. My times are reflective of that, so that's all I can ask for. Good to hear. Go well. Thank you. All right, so we've got plenty of people out here at the moment. It's feeling a bit like Martin Brundle a little bit here in terms of a F1 grid walk. I don't want to get too far away from my cameraman. He's going to try and work his way through, but Renee's attracting plenty of supporters. So we'll make our way down to the second row of the grid. I've got the Mercedes here. Got Chaz Mostert on the second row. Declan Fraser and Grant Hackett. Grant's another one with... Oh, Grant Hackett, listen to me. Congratulations, second row start. That's a nice place to be. Yeah, we've been trying to build a race car all weekend, not necessarily a qualifying car.
We know our tyre life's good. This is a super high deg circuit, and we've got pretty good fuel economy, so we're comfortable with this position. My lap, it was a decent lap, but it was definitely not one to put in the wall like, unfortunately, some others.
All the best.
Thank you.
I believe Declan is around. Yes, he's over the other side of the car here. Let's head on around to catch up with Declan. I'll see if I can just jump in with Declan here, just chatting with the team, Triple Eight. Declan, great to see you. I've got to ask, how are you? It's been a massive week or so for viewers that may not know. The house that you were staying in was burnt down right on the eve of Bathurst. How's everything come together?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. I still haven't been able to get home, which is the unfortunate part. It's more just I want to get home and see Darren and Di, who unfortunately own the house as well that I was living in. So they're all safe, which is the main thing. But at the moment, it's just rebuilding, but focusing on the race. So really stoked to be back out here with T8. We've put it in P3 for the race, and we'll go out there, give it our best shot. It's a very, very long race right into the night, and we'll have some fun.
Now, motorsport fans know how important trophies are. You lost a few of them. Can you get them redone? Do you know yet? Have you even thought that far ahead?
I'm trying to think about it in the back of my mind. I think the trophies are probably the easy thing to get replaced. It's the amount of helmets that I had that are all gone from my early career and all the way through. So all that stuff I've got to sort out next week. We've got Gold Coast next week as well in the Toyota 86 series for me. So yeah, I've got a bit on, but got to sort it all out when I get home.
How was your Bathurst experience otherwise?
Yeah, pretty good. We qualified in the 10, which was good. Just unfortunate in the race we had a fuel issue on our very first stop. So we got put back from 4th to last, and then came back to finish 16th. So not the greatest, but not the worst, and it's always a good time when you get to go drive around Bathurst.
Racing at night time here, it's pretty special, isn't it?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Already the sun's pretty grim in the eyes going down into turn 1. So Pete's got his tinted visor on, so as long as he keeps his eyes on the road, we'll be fine.
That's it. I said Grant before instead of Pete, so slip of the tongue there, but either way, he's going to be a champion, so all the best.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, just heading a little bit further down, we can see we're just starting to clear the grid at the moment. Now, joking earlier that I could hear Will Brown flying off into the distance to get back to Toowoomba. He was still at the track just a short time ago, so that's good as well. Brendan Leach, watch out for this entry with Tim Miles. Brendan's been doing a fantastic effort. A race winner earlier this year at Phillip Island, and up against those number 1 drivers, doing an outstanding job. So fantastic work there by him. But that's how things are shaping up at the moment. We are clearing the grid, so most of the drivers, it appears, have now headed off to get strapped in and ready. The Groves are here behind us, Brenton and Stephen. A really big week for this team because they've announced in terms of Supercars land that Garth Tander, who we've seen here before as a race winner, is going to be staying with that organisation. So that's fantastic. Al McVeigh, the engineer for this team for Stephen and Brenton, is just there. I won't jump in. I might really quickly just jump in and see really quickly, mate. How are you feeling ahead of this one? Great news with Garth Tander. We're just detailing that. You've locked him away.
Yeah, that's great news. I wish he was here actually in the seat helping me out or sitting next to me giving me a bit of advice. But no, it's good. Good for the team. He's a great inspiration to the team, so it's exciting.
Steve, go well. Congrats on that and good luck in this one.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Stubbsy. Thank you. Nice walk through
He looked tired.
He did. Can we just say, too, on Declan Fraser, I think he's lost his first Bathurst helmet, maybe one of his Super 2 helmets. And there's been a bit of chat on social media. Can we just ask for a bit of calm there, please? I think people have been talking about what may or may not have caused that fire and a housemate and a motorbike and so on. Please leave them just to do their investigations. I don't necessarily believe that's accurate. It's tough enough for Declan as it is. Enough said there. What is Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia? Well, let's have a little bit of a look, and we'll bring Thomas Randall in here. Well, it's part of an international formula. As we said before, what we do here in Australia mirrors what similar championships have overseas. We do have a multitude of races, a couple of 1 hours at normal rounds. We have an endurance championship as well, of which this 3 hour is a part of that.
Correct. So this is part of the endurance championship 3 hour race. So there'll be 3 mandatory pit stops. And the great thing about this Fanatec GT World Challenge, Rusty, is like you said, it is a world challenge. So these drivers can literally grab their seat insert and head over to Europe, jump in the same car and go racing in the exact same specification GT cars. And it's the same to be said when European drivers or internationals come over to Australia and race as well. And the fact that you get to have this mix of, you know, the bronze driver, if you like, with a pro driver in the car as well, both get to feed off each other. And I mean, these stunning brand new Ferraris, to have them in the category this year is beautiful as well. So there's a great mix of manufacturers in this field. Unfortunately, like you touched on before, we did lose the Audi of Brad Schumacher and Will Brown due to an unfortunate incident in the Super Pole. So I'm sure we'll see them back because they're right in the championship, in the sprint championship, but unfortunately will be taking no further part, well, in this weekend or in this 3-hour race.
About to head off on the warm-up lap. Greg Rust, Thomas Randall, Matt Nolte with you for our first hour of competition. We'll then do a pit stop. Thomas Randall will not be given a break one bit. We'll be out.
He's strapped to the chair.
He's strapped into the chair. James Baldwin will join us, and of course, in the lane for us is Chris Stubbs. Now, we've detailed already, courtesy of Thomas Randall, that the pit entry exit loop at 40 k's an hour, 31.3 seconds. There are 3 mandatory pit stops to be carried out during this 3-hour race, but we dispense with what we talked about earlier in GT4 in CPS, right, in penalty times and so on. So what do they have to do as far as stops are concerned? Well, any of the stops involving a driver change and or refueling are subject to the mandatory pit stop time. The length of any others are free. So if there's, say, a 4th stop, for example, you can make it a sprint, a splash and dash. The mandatory pit stop time is 125 seconds for all GT3 cars. Just to clarify, 125 seconds is from pit in to pit out.
Correct, and just to touch on what you said there, Rusty, there are no compensation times that will be enforced for this race. Another thing that we need to touch on is the maximum drive time per driver is 100 minutes. So that's an hour and 40 minutes. The race being 3 hours, so that's 300 minutes. So it's going to be interesting to see how they, you know, make that
play
work.
This, yeah.
Yeah.
And the first...
Sorry, 180 minutes. Sorry, 180 minutes.
And the first 30 minutes of this race is going to be in sunshine, with the sun setting just after 7:10 local time. There it is, disappearing out west over the Blue Mountains. So once the lights come on, the track changes completely. Those Musco light towers that will bathe Sydney Motorsport Park in light going into the night here. Here is the grid. What an effort from the Ram Motorsport GWR Australia team to put that car on the front row.
And we heard from Renee Gracie there before with Stubbsy, paired with Paul Stokel, who's got a great background in Australian motor racing, everything from Targa to success in open wheelers back in the Formula Holden days. Fraser and Hackett, they're a great combination for Triple Eight Race Engineering, and a big hi to the guys and girls at Triple Eight Race Engineering off the back of a 2nd and 3rd place finish at Mount Panorama Bathurst. Their Mercedes AMG customer racing team are here, and let's not forget, in recent weeks, Gold Coast next week obviously for the V8 supercar side of the operation, and let's not forget Johor Racing have been competing internationally as well, so it's been a busy time collectively for that crew.
It's been non-stop, hasn't it, for the last 12 months. 12-car grid now, with the withdrawal of the Car 87 Ashore and Partners entry earlier today after that shunt during the Super Pole. A new addition to Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. So that's how the field looks. They'll get into the rows of 2 very soon, and then we'll blast off into the very tricky turn number 1 with the sun right in the driver's eyes for the first, let's say, 10 to 15 laps around the Sydney Motorsport Park course. 180 minutes of racing coming our way. What a moment it is for the AM-class drivers of Walden and Sheargold. Paul Stokel starting car 181, the only fans Audi. This will be a tough run to turn 1.
What a lineup of cars, what a lineup of marks, and some star drivers to come as well. We're in the starters' hands, they're all bunched up. Will we get the green light? Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. We are underway. 3 hours of racing as the sun sets here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and it's the only fans Audi that takes the lead into 1.
Stokel taking no for an answer. The Mercedes fights back. They'll go side by side. Look at the Ferrari, the Arise Ferrari in 3rd position already. Liam Talbot behind the wheel, the 2-time race winners this year in GT World Challenge. So they ticked off the first part. They got through turn 1, they got through turn 2, and it's the Audi that leads on the first lap.
Liam Talbot already on that colder tyre, not afraid to push. Someone's gone around at 4. Luckily, everyone avoids it.
Mark Rosson just looks like he was trying to go down the inside there, and I don't know whether he's just maybe clipped the rear right of the car he was trying to pass, but thankfully no damage back in the race, and it's still 3 out. Oh, we've actually got a puncture, it looks like, on the left rear maybe of that Mercedes.
Is that Peter Hackett? Who is that that's slowing?
Get a shot of that.
In the meantime, Tim Miles has picked up a spot there. Is it? We need to confirm it. Which car is that?
It does look like the Peter Hackett car. You are right. Left rear puncture, potentially.
Now, was there contact between those two going into 4 for that to happen? Was the Rosser car on the outside? Hard to tell. Wouldn't have thought he ran over any debris in the first half of the lap, but that is tough, and that is going to be a pit stop coming up well earlier than they expected. As the leaders come through to complete the first lap, Stokel ahead of Talbot, Sheargold behind the wheel of the Ram Motorsport Garth Walden Racing entry. The Mercedes-Benz runs in 3rd position. As 1 lap is in the books and already a story developing.
Tim Miles is hustling here in the Dale ITM Audi. Keep an eye on that in 4th place at the moment, the car that he shares with Brendan Leach. Saw Brendan's parents here at the circuit on Friday, and it's nice for them to be able to catch up with their son, because he's been busy. He's been busy racing Lamborghinis overseas and so on, as well as contesting this championship with Tim throughout season 2024. Stokel continues to lead, but Talbot looks menacing in the Ferrari for Arise Racing. What's Sheargold doing here? There's Miles closing in on him. So 2 battles happening for 1st and 3rd respectively here at the moment.
Hackett's just entered the lane with what looked like big lockup, which is unusual to see in a GT car, but Hackett's in the lane. Would probably change that left rear, but by the rules, technically this can be his first mandatory pit stop, which obviously not ideal being at the start of this race, but they do have to complete 3, so that's potentially where this may not fully take that car out of contention.
So worth keeping that in the back of our mind. What happened in the 1000 all those years ago with Larry Perkins and Russell Ingall was last to first, wasn't it?
And it could absolutely happen. This Mercedes-Benz looks awkward. Do you think he's having trouble getting the tyres up, maybe?
I don't know whether they've started at lower tyre pressure than the rest of the field, but Sheargold's really trying to hold that 3rd spot. It was Garth Walton that actually qualified that car on pole in the Super Pole, 3.5 tenths up on Stokel. So it was a mega lap from Garth in the Super Pole with a low 1:27.3. So that car definitely has pace in it, but like you guys touched on, whether or not the tyres are still coming up, and they just ran at maybe a little bit lower pressure.
Second Ferrari sits in behind this group. What a step up it's been for Arise Racing. They're known for their radical cut competition. They fielded several cars over there in the West. They bit the bullet, got a couple of Ferraris going now, committing to the series. As challenge on here now, the Dale ITM Audi makes the spot up. Now so Tim Miles goes up into 3rd place.
I just wonder if Sheargold is having a struggle here. We saw that car lock the brakes before, big puff of smoke. Second of the Arise Ferraris now trying to get by. So is there a little something that is just maybe in the early part of this race, heavy tanks, maybe Mike Sheargold is not feeling comfortable, not feeling it right now?
Yeah, that's a good possibility, Rusty. I think the best thing he can do for now is just try and maintain track position, circulate. You know, Garth will be in that car in not too distant future. Oh, not in the distant future, I should say. But Talbot up 2 spots, half a second between the top 2, and that Ferrari's clearly got his pace in it as well. And Talbot in the Super Pole was 4th with a 28.4, but yeah, the start of this one he's made a bit of ground. And Honduras up 4 spots as well. It's been a good start for that Ferrari, the number 1 Ferrari.
The second one fancies a move here. Elliott shoot behind the wheel and gets it done nicely before turn number 1. So the Arise Ferrari's on the move, but very early days as conditions turn from day into night. Another move now, so the Sheargold Ram Motorsport car. Was awkward with Stephen Grove making the move. So Mercedes on Mercedes, and Mark Rosser is suddenly back after that little oopsie on the way down through turn 4 on the opening lap.
Peter Hackett looks like he's back out there, but obviously down in position 12. So just need to keep a little watch on that. The 888 entry that he shares with Declan Fraser, pitting on what was effectively lap 2, and that'll fully change their plans now, potentially.
Sheargold's really struggling with that car. He's now dropped behind Rosser, who spun at the start of the race. So I don't know if that car's got a problem, because he's really dropping like a stone here. So it'd be, see if we can find out more about what's happening to that 45 Mercedes.
If that was low pressures that you pick maybe to start, what's that like to drive on? Would it be giving this kind of feel now that you're seeing?
Well, you'd say 10 minutes into the race now, the tyres would be more up to pressure, but certainly when the pressures are low, the car wobbles around a bit more. You know, the sidewall obviously isn't as stiff, but as he has another massive wiggle out of turn 10, so yeah, I'd like to find out what's happening with this 45 Mercedes, because he's dropped now, he's over 20 seconds behind the race lead, and we've only done 4 laps, so I don't know whether he just feels uncomfortable in that car, or at the moment certainly doesn't feel confident behind the wheel of that Mercedes.
I am far from a guru when it comes to supplementary regulations, unlike you racers, right? But just to revisit something we spoke about at the top, the 3 mandatory pit stops that are to be carried out during the 3-hour race must include a driver change. Now, looking at the timing, unless that's not updated yet, I don't think Pete Hackett has jumped out of that car.
Yeah, understood. And that car is actually over a lap down, so ideally he would need a safety car to try and get back on that lead lap, stay out. Everyone else pits, get on the back of the train, and then take another pit stop. But yeah, looking at that rule, we'll have to just clarify that.
He's picking his way through the field, but like you said, a lap down already in the Red Hot Couriers entry, the 888 Racing prepared machine. Of course, Red Hot Couriers have been a long-time support with Declan Fraser's efforts when you go back to Toyota 86 and his Super 2 campaign many years ago in a Nissan Altima. But they have their work cut out right now. So we check down the field. Here he is on the back of Sheargold, but remember, he needs to get past the lease cars and get a safety car. Makes the move on Sheargold. That car drops down now to the bottom of the top 10. Paul Lucchini is lining up to make the move on him, as Stokel and Talbot have cleared out to some 13 seconds on Tim Miles. Very early stages of this race. We're nearly 11 minutes old, Stubbsy, and the sun's starting to set and those lights starting to take effect.
Yeah, just to put a full stop on Mike Sheargold and how they're going there with the Merc. Just spoke to Garth and the team there, and it's not tyre pressures, no issue with the car. Just got a little bit monstered there at the start and just out of his rhythm a little bit, but eyes forward, and they're happy that they can progress.
Thanks, Stubbsy. In pit lane at Sydney Motorsport Park here, you're watching the Fanatec GT World Challenge 3-hour endurance race here as part of Colour Spec Race Sydney. It's been a brilliant day. We do it all again tomorrow on 7+. Porsche Michelin Sprint Challenge wrapped up today by Oscar Target. Oh, another lock-up down here, and just covering off the Lucchini car behind. So we watch the 888 of Hackett. There's no shot to find here that Hackett is going to pick these cars off. Keep an eye on where that car was a few laps ago, more than a lap down.
Yeah, Hackett's in the best lap of 1 minute 30, so he's certainly got the pace, but he just doesn't have track position at the moment. So yeah, Sheargold, as we touched on, still struggling with that car, that Mercedes, but this is the battle for the lead. Stokel v Talbot, 0.8 of a second. You can actually just hear the car bottoming out because it is quite bumpy at turn 3 there, Nolte, where you just have a small lift to try and get the nose down, get a bit of weight on the front tyres, and get the front into turn 3 to try and get an optimal exit. And there are heaps of bottoming out here at turn 5, trying to stay within track limits. So there's so many surface changes here. It's actually quite evident when you see on the TV going into turn 6. They're on quite an old surface now, and this surface is very deteriorated all the way as we go into turn 8, still deteriorated. You can actually see when they exit turn 8 the change in road to go from right there's a line which you can just see in the back there. They're now onto a much newer track surface. So once you hit that new surface, it's really nice. But the problem is that the new track surface starts after you finish the throttle ramp on the old surface. So the rear tyres and the front right tyre do get punished pretty hard here.
A track that was opened back in 1990. In fact, we're only a couple of weeks away from the 33rd anniversary, or 34th anniversary of that opening that day. Yeah.
That's crazy.
1990, the Nissan 500, won by Commodore that day. Larry Perkins and Thomas Mazzero winning that day, but of course, has hosted so much cool racing.
Were you even born?
I was. I'm not going to tell you how old I was.
No. Very good.
I think our third co-driver in the middle probably wasn't born around that period.
Definitely not.
Here's the leader, Paul Stokel, after a stint with Matt Stupas the last couple of years in the KFC Audi. A great addition to the OnlyFans team, and they've had great success this year. And Renee herself, remember, she debuted in the Pro-Am class at Adelaide last year and had a very good day out there on the streets of Adelaide.
Another one.
Hackett just picking him off. These are for positions, incidentally. This is just him trying to get towards the front and hope for a safety car. So we're hearing there was no driver change with this car during their pit stop.
So the unscheduled pit stop, as
I mean, just as I say, just to if you're not stopping for that mandatory length of time, you can stop more than your 3 mandatory stops. We've clarified that before, but if you don't stop for that 125 seconds and do a driver change, I don't think it can be considered. So clearly what they've done, they've had an incident at the start of this race, quickly deal with it, get him back out there, they're trying to recover time.
So in that case, he's still got 3 pit stops to do.
Yeah.
So the one thing that they will be praying for is a safety car. Let the leaders pit, get onto the back of the train, then pit yourself. So, or get your lap back, and then before you pit. So still 2 hours and 42 minutes to go. Long way to go in this race. So as we know in motorsport, anything can happen, and usually does. So fingers crossed for them, they can get their lap back.
Just to your point before on Paul Stokel too, for that progression for Renee's return to racing, and you detailed what she was doing in last year's championship, the step this year, perfect guy to share the driving, the experience required in these GT3 machines and so on. He's so calm, Paul, isn't he? Yeah. Just wise head on his shoulders. Bit of pressure here now from Liam Talbot, who is certainly one of the sought-after, the star co-drivers, if you like, in this, paired with Chaz Mostert.
2-time winners so far this year, after coming out of the gate strong at Phillip Island at the first round, or the first Phillip Island stop of the year, I should say, back in April. They repeated that performance at the GT Festival a few weeks ago, went on to finish second in the final race of the weekend. They are disappearing from the field, but it is very early days. It's some 18 seconds back to Tim Miles, the second Ferrari for Arias Racing, running back in 4th spot. Mark Rosser still runs it fifth. Stephen Grove, we had a quick glimpse of the Superbarn Supermarkets entry of the Conduras brothers back in 7th. Marcel Zalura, remember that car was off today during Superpole as well, with Sergio Perez behind the wheel of the car at the time. That was over the back of Corporate Hill. But you get the feeling it's going to be a long battle between these two. Audi taking on Ferrari here under the lights at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Stokel at the moment has the fastest lap in the race with the 1:29.0830. But Talbot was lighting up the timing monitor last time by as he was closing in on Paul, and I thought he might eclipse that number. Do you know what he missed out on it by? 5 thousandths of a second. So they're going sort of toe-to-toe at the moment, these two. Talbot's Ferrari seems strong, particularly in the first sector, and then Paul seems to be able to respond.
And Mark Rosser has recovered quite nicely, dropping fairway to the back of the field to P5 outright, albeit 26 seconds off the lead. So that's a nice little recovery in these first opening laps. But like you said, Rusty, the first two are definitely trading places. So he's certainly keeping him in his sights as that sun still glaring into the eyes, into the visors of the drivers into turn 1. But we're not actually too far away from the sun dipping below. There's actually quite a big mound into turn 1, so we're probably not that far away now from that disappearing.
The spectator mount right there as you turn in through the fast turn 1. It's basically straight down the old drag strip in front of you, isn't it? So waiting for it to set, to disappear here. So 7:03 local time in New South Wales there, in Sydney, I should say. So at the moment, status quo up in front, nothing in it between these two rather. Stokel versus Talbot. Now, Tim Miles managed to make some ground early on in this race, but he's some 19 seconds back down the road behind these two. Few sparks there from the Audi as it ran over the concrete apron that Tom Randall's been warning us about just in relation to track limits.
Sure, Craig Bear to be watching closely.
Yep. Craig, incidentally, is in, there's that sun that you were talking about, among the many hats that Craig wears around motorsport in this country. He's the driving standards advisor for Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. Race director is James Taylor, and accompanied by a great team of people there in what we affectionately kind of call the hamburger. It looks nicer than that at Sydney Motorsport Park, all done up these days. They have a bird's eye view there. You can see it perched up high there on the left-hand side as they run back down the Bradland Straight once again.
With a big golden arch. Not the golden arches, just the golden arch.
Exactly.
There
Great
it is.
views. There it is.
Wind certainly died down as well. A little bit of a tiny tail slash crosswind into turn one, but fairly minor for these GT cars. And that's something that actually really does affect GT cars and high aero cars, is the wind. It can have quite a factor because these cars are so stuck to the ground, and with how much aerodynamics are on modern day GT3 cars, any sort of slight bit of turbulence, shall we say, not including aero wash when you're behind a car, can certainly make the handling very tricky. And when you've got a tailwind into turn one, for example, here at Sydney Motorsport Park, you can get a lot of aero understeer. Oh, man. Rosser has made contact potentially with, is that exit at turn one?
Yeah, it's right off the track down there at turn one. So
Was running in 5th place, as Tom Randall pointed out before. Now, how much damage is there to the front? Will we see a safety car here? And well done to both of you. That's the old drag strip there to the left of your screen at the bottom. It's run off at 1. That thing's not going anywhere. Look at the rear wheel spinning.
Now, I can only assume that he's probably lost it on the way in and maybe just pirouetted off. And I think we've just gone safety car, actually. So this is going to help the Hackett, the 888 entry.
Exactly.
So this is exactly what they needed, and exactly not what the 81 Audi of Rosser needed.
And he's on his way down to turn 7 already. The leader's just coming past the start-finish line now. So Rosser, who's teamed up with international star Alex Peroni, buried in the gravel down there at turn 1, did his best to try and get out. He's a long way off the course, and that more than 5 deep tyre barrier has arrested the ACM Finance entry. Team BRM supported 81 Audi. So the first time the safety car has been out, and Rosser ushering for some assistance to get out there. Doesn't want to go a lap down.
The tyre barrier is angled down very slightly. It's sort of sitting on a crown on the land there, isn't it, on the grass? Okay, so first of our mandatory stops happening. That is Liam Talbot, who was in second, jumping out. Chaz Mostert jumping in. Racing last week, of course, for Walkinshaw and Andretti United.
It looks like the Rosser car maybe didn't, I don't know if, I think they've gotten away with it in terms of the damage point of view. So whether it's just kissed the tyre button, here we go, we've got a replay, and he's dropped it into turn 1. So high speed into turn 1 in these cars, and I mean, there'd be very minimal damage on that car. It's just going to be a case of towing it out and getting back in the race.
Does that lend itself a little bit, as we see more pit stop action here for Arise Racing, does that lend itself a little bit to what you were talking about in relation to aero? So if we've got a little bit of tailwind going in there, if you get in a bit hot with your braking, carrying a little bit too much speed, does that contribute to it, perhaps?
Yeah, possibly. And, you know, I mean, the fuel load's coming off as well. Tyres are wearing. I mean, whether it's a momentary lapse in concentration, there's all sorts of things that could contribute to a moment like that. And at that point of the track, Rusty, that's the highest aero load corner. So once it lets go, that's probably it. So, you know, I've had a few moments around there in a GT car, and there's a massive bump right in the centre of the corner. But I mean, we're very lucky that all the safety upgrade or improvements and the safety work that goes into these tracks, I think he's going to get away with that pretty scot-free and get back in the race, albeit I'd say a couple of laps down. But the lane is just packed at the moment. Everyone's in.
What do you, as the gets out just?
I was watching it the whole time. The Audi was parked in really awkwardly in the pit stop and just come out. I'm not sure there was contact between the number 1 Ferrari and the 181 Audi.
Wow, Renee Gracie assertive.
Hopefully not an unsafe release. They're pretty on it in pit lane. If you're a car in the fast lane and there's a car merging, it's the onus is on the car merging to merge into the fast lane safely. So if the car that's in the fast lane has had to apply the brake or slow down, then that's normally deemed an unsafe release. So it did look pretty close. We'll have to wait and see if there's anything from race control on that.
A little bit of a tempo change about to happen here now, because you've got Mostert behind the wheel, Brendan Leach, who's experienced internationally. The Kiwi is now behind the wheel. Jackson Evans takes over from Elliott Shute in the second of the Arise Racing Ferrari. So there's some good peddlers here that are now behind the wheel as we get set for the completion of the first round of mandatory pit stops here. Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. We go down to 888.
Brand new Pirelli's going on that car. Driver change. And this is obviously a lot earlier than we were expecting to see the pit stops, but I mean, you have to pit under safety cars, so he'll just be waiting for this mandatory pit stop time, and fingers crossed that, I mean, they're going to get back out on the lead lap. So the safety car is just coming through turn 8 now. Not quite sure how many seconds he had left on his mandatory pit stop, but he's going to want to make sure that they get that thing out of the lane before the safety car gets to safety car line 1, which is the pit entry. At that point, they shut the pit exit, and he's not going anywhere.
Now, he's waiting because he's got about another 25 seconds, so he might go a lap down here. If you're wondering why he's not moving, he's got to meet that 125 seconds before it goes. He's stalled, trying to fire up and get back out the track. 125 seconds between arriving at pit lane and leaving pit lane.
Sounds like he was just leaving in the background
there. There you go, clock counting, 2 minutes 4, 2 minutes 5, has it exited the lane, so they're under. Well, not under, I beg your pardon. So they're within, it would seem, based on that timing. They're within the parameters, so well done. Declan Fraser, the timing updates, is behind the wheel, so that is one of their mandatory stops done.
Correct. So this, as we said before, has played in the hands to the 888 Mercedes. Now what he's got to do is Blaze get on the back of the train, and effectively, you could say, apart from track position, he's back in the game.
Motorsport Australia, Ford Ranger, Wild Track Recovery goes to work here. I want to come back to what you were talking about before, about what that feels like through turn 1.
You just wanted to touch, sorry, Rusty. Under investigation is actually the Renee Gracie car for a pit stop infringement.
Oh, wow.
So that could be
the release.
Possibly the release, unless there's been something that's occurred within the pit stop that we didn't see. But I'd be interested to see how race control tackle that one.
Under time, perhaps, as well.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Okay, so the stricken car. Oh, now you can see Chas Mostert raise the hand. You can see the car prop. That tells you that Arise Racing have obviously raised that and gone, hey guys, hang on a minute. We feel like we're impeded here. And there is a bit of a process in that. You can kind of make it clear from your perspective, and then they go and investigate, don't they?
Correct, and they can look at the data, so they'll see in the pit stop if he's, well, if Chas has had to brake, which it looked like the front of the car, well, it looked like the car had to prop, or the front of the car, the splitter went down, and as you noted, Rusty, he's had his hand up, yeah. So, you know, I mean, that could be, if it's for the unsafe release, that could be a 5-second penalty, so, which is something that would be served at the next pit stop. So we'll just have to wait and see race control investigate that. And on that note, the safety car is in this lap.
Yep, lights will go out very shortly on the Hyundai safety car.
So 888 is on his way up to turn 2 to catch the train of cars. We're watching on our tracker here in the commentary box.
Declan Fraser, hustle.
You're going to be a race speed by the time you get back to the control line, Cole.
Speed, Cole.
He's pushing hard. He's pushing hard. So, but the lead, the rules, you know, the safety car lights are still on. They'll be extinguished, I'd say, at the exit of turn 8. So, leader must maintain 80 kilometres an hour. He can't go until he sees it. Well, he'll be in control of the field once it goes green. So once there's a green flag, the leader can go whenever he wants. He can't go before he sees green flags. So we've still got yellow flags waving. And Declan is just going through turn 6 now. He may get within 10 seconds of the pack, but he's doing the best job he can.
Settle in with the leader with an asterisk next to the name. We'll keep an eye on that through Motorsport Australia Race Control. Hyundai safety car back into the pits. Our first safety car in the books here, the Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS, coming back to life.
Look to the right of
here
your
in
screen.
Sydney.
Look to the right of your screen, the top of your screen. You may see, there it is. There's the 888 Mercedes AMG, now with Declan Fraser at the wheel. So it gives you basically not quite the length of Brabham Straight that he's trying to recover here. Gracie under pressure from Chaz Mostert with a question mark there in relation to the execution of the pit stop. Is it a violation? Is it a breach? Brendan Leach in third place. Now this will be a tasty fight. The Audi in between the two Ferraris with some fast steerers behind the wheel.
To the lead through the right-hander goes the Ferrari. So Mostert moves to the lead. Leach goes up to second now, and the second Ferrari swarming the OnlyFans Audi on the way to turn 6.
Enter Brenton Grove, dives down the inside of Evans. They're blocked, they're boxed here. Renee's in the middle, left and right, they make a bit of contact.
A bit early for that.
Just a lazy 2.5 hours to go. Who's counting?
Evans really trying to get past Renee Gracie. He went for the outside move on turn 5 and Renee shut the door. Then he tried the outside again in turn 6. Scrove is off the track on the grass. Not where you want to be putting that GD3 car. They are battling super hard here for P4. So Evans is going to want to clear Renee as quickly as possible. And there you go, guys. 15-second time penalty for that unsafe release for car 181.
And what's happened here? Puncture, left rear. They started the race on the front row.
What a disaster for that team, the 45 car. Garth Ward behind the wheel now. I don't know whether something might have happened at turn 3 on that restart. We saw a bit of dust in the background, so whether or not there might have been contact or, you know, the tyres at that point are cool, they're cold, the sidewalls are flexing a lot more, so any sort of wheel-to-wheel contact when the tyre pressures are low, that brings the chances of a puncture, well, they're much higher.
Definitely. Brenton, Ari, Vartanen, Grove is chasing here. What happens when that guy puts his helmet on? He's feisty at the moment. He's pushing. Good stuff. Bit of sparks flying as the sun sets here at Sydney Motorsport Park and the lights come on. It's a magic place for nighttime racing, this, and we're going to be treated to it because we've got more than 2.5 or just under 2.5 hours left to go in this one.
Jackson's really just trying to get some sort of run on Renee, but Renee's closing the door on Evans. But here we go, Evans got a run now out of turn 8. Renee probably went in a little bit too hot there, and now can Jackson stick it down the inside? And Renee actually, Brenton off, right-hand wheels, massive sparks flying.
He's got to be careful with the undertray of this car. There's a lot of aero that helps these cars. That's 2 excursions he's had now in that same sector.
I don't know whether that's magnified because the sun is setting and it's nighttime, but that looked pretty ferocious, didn't it? The way it rode the curb then and the sparks that came from underneath the car. Anyway, they've cleared Gracie. They're off these two. Evans and Grove in search of Leach and Mostert. So Mostert has a 0.35 second lead over Brenton Leach. These guys 5 seconds further back down the road.
And Fraser's up to P7 now, so just on that, bit of a recovery for them after falling to the back of the field. There's still about a 11-second gap to the lead, so it's going to be tricky for them, but I mean they're still in it. And the 81 of Rosser that had that spin at turn 1, Peroni's in the car, and yeah, unfortunately they're about 3.5 laps down.
Gee, I hope the director doesn't come to us here at the desk. We've got our feet up, some pizza has arrived. The athlete in Thomas Randall will be having none of that, so that's for Matt and I. Fantastic.
Where's the kale?
the kale sandwich for you. Fastest lap of the race now to Brendan Leach, and he keeps lighting up the timing monitor. The gap is 0.3 between them. Awesome fight here between these two. Radio issues we're hearing from our colleagues in the lane for the Grove entry. So I wonder if in the aggression, I love the spirit, I love the fight, I wonder if they're trying to tell him just, hey, let's hit our markers here, let's keep it nice, but they can't get that message through to him. Radio issues.
That's where you might need a pit board to hang out at the side of the window, and that's something that we always carry just in case supercars land, you know, in case you have a radio drop out. And it's tough because if you don't have a radio, you don't have to talk. Oh, Brenton goes for a massive dive and there's contact between the two. Brenton has actually ran wide there on passing Chaz Mostert, so it looked like a bit of bodywork also came off that car as well.
Agree.
Just tap that timing screen. It's just 2 hours, 24 minutes to go, doesn't it?
That's a big move at this stage, isn't it? At full Euro spec, the way he sent it then, down the inside. I'd love to see that again, really deep at turn 2, and I'm certain one of them had a little bit of bodywork come off that car. I'm tipping the Audi. Well, let's have a look here. You call it.
Yeah, it's obviously gone for a late move down the inside on Chaz. There's a little bit of contact there, and it looks like just a little bit of the front guard or the front quarter has come off of Chaz's car. So if anything, it's probably losing a little bit of air on Chaz's car.
Firing it in like that, and the use of the curb upset that car and sent it toward the Ferrari, didn't it?
Well, he's used a bit of the curb, but he's also, this is Brendan we're talking about, has leaned on Mostert into turn 1. And the good thing was, obviously, Chaz is very spatially aware of that as well. And if Chaz had kept turning in, there would have been, major contact between the two. So great move from Brendan, very late. It was a surprise attack on the number 1 Ferrari and Mostert, and both of them did well to be honest, not end up in a worse position in that instance. So Leach now, clear air, and that's something that's crucial in these GT3 cars because there is a lot of aero wash in a GT3 car. Brenton flashing the headlights, which is something us drivers think does a trick to put off the driver in front of us. Whether or not it actually does
Doesn't work, does it?
No, I don't think it works, but we believe it does, and let us have that moment. So
you haven't ridden the car with Rusty then on the way to the airport some nights.
Oh, the headlights will get a bit of a workout, I imagine, especially this down the Monash.
Okay, 1.2 seconds. Dale ITM Audi. Is there a little bit of damage to that car too in the little melee that ensued at turn 2?
Looks okay now, Rusty.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just put the fastest first sector of the race in. So, and Peroni's actually just set the fastest third sector. So that car, albeit 3.5 laps down, is lapping at, really good pace. He's on par with the top 3.
Need to keep an eye on Declan Fraser versus Sergio Perez here because I think it's 0.3. There's nothing in it at the moment. He's closing on another spot here, potentially up to 6th.
Here's Grove on the back of Jackson Evans. The battle for 3rd and 4th position. They're about 6 seconds away from our leading car. So Leach about to set the fastest lap of the race and does at 28.1 in the Dale ITM Audi, prepared by Melbourne Performance Centre. Race winners earlier this year at Phillip Island with Tim Miles, a great combination. And he felt he had a better race car, that's why he parked it up there at turn 2. And now starting to put a margin on the former double Bathurst champion. While the second Arise Ferrari, Jackson Evans behind the wheel, regular with the SCT Logistics Camaro in the Supercars Championship, has got Grove, who looks like he's finally settling down behind the wheel of the number 4 Mercedes-Benz.
Leach is going for it. He's just got the fastest first sector again. The margin is already 1.8 seconds over Chaz Mostert. Part of me wonders whether Arise Racing have gone, let him go. Let's not get too caught up in all of that, right? Let's look after everything. Adam DeBoer, some of the real brains that are in that operation, may have just called for a little bit of calm here.
I couldn't agree more. I think this track, knowing how hard it is on tyres with the different track surfaces, it's kind of like a cheese grater in some of the parts of the track. So, yes, Brendan is certainly bolting, but he's got to be careful here that he doesn't use up too much of the tyres, because this place is all about tyre conservation. And while it's nice to, lay down a few heaters, the race still is there's 2 hours and 20 minutes to go. 140 minutes left of racing. So, albeit he's building up a small margin at the moment, there's a long way to go.
Get back to your protein shake and nail sandwich.
don't put the cameras on us, please.
20 laps into the race. Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS.
He's got him. So the Grove Racing, that's the point here. Let's have a look. It was happening while we were focusing on some of the other stuff. The pace of Brendan Leach, and look at this from Brenton Grove. Wow, around the back of Corporate Hill. Now, Matt, he's been trying to get that done in frustration for a number of laps. Now he's finally got clear air, and look at him checking out already.
And now we'll see what the lap speed's like for the number 4 Grove car. Down through turn 4 he goes, so he's up into 3rd position. That's the Dale ITM Audi that continues to lead. 2 seconds the margin as we go to pit lane. Here's Chris Stubbs.
Thank you. Just standing outside Brendan Leach there. Tim Miles has just put the helmet on. The team look like they're setting up for a stop, so just keep an eye on that one. But the helmet is certainly on, so perhaps that explains why he's pushing so hard. G's got his eye in, hasn't he? He's been in great form racing all round the world. Sports car debut at Indy, the 8 Hour, Barcelona. He's been everywhere, and it's showing. Brendan Leach doing a great job.
And Stubbsy, pit lane. That's Sydney Motorsport Park. So the first round of pit stops, 22 minutes into the race. That was when the first safety car come out. Leaders coming up to the Superbarn Supermarkets entry now. The Honduras boys running back in position number 10 in the AM class.
Nolts, while we're watching Leach here, Tom Randall's picked up on something. We're focused on our leaders. We didn't see it that time by, but the last time when Brenton came about mid-track or closer to the pit wall, quite rightly, Thomas Randall is wondering whether maybe nighttime, lights on, are we trying to see the pit board given that we've got radio issues? So maybe he was moving across to get a clearer look at the Grove Racing pit board there.
It also depends on how big that pit board is, and Tom could also back that up more. At those speeds with the night lights, there is a bit of reflect out there as well. If you've got the advantage to move across and get a better look, you take it.
Absolutely, and I actually noticed that at Bathurst, Grove Racing were debuting a LED pit board, which whether or not they've brought that here, I'm not sure. But that's I've never seen an LED pit board used in Australia. We just still use a regular one with stickers that are reflective.
Yeah.
So I guess the handy thing with an LED one is it's fully customisable, but whether in this lighting it might be harder to see, I'm not quite sure. Or easier to see.
We have the ultimate autograph and memorabilia hunter working for us in the pit lane. We'll send Stubbsy on the case for us.
And the blueberry muffin eater.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see if they're using that here. Busy time. But that was used by that outfit at Mount Panorama Bathurst. Have they brought it here to Sydney Motorsport Park? Cool shot, lights on as these GT machines come into the very fast turn one. And that shows you the real-time gap between our leader, Brendan Leach, and Chaz Mostert. It is 1.9 seconds. So it's gone out by a couple of tenths, but Chaz is keeping it kind of status quo now. He's let Brendan Leach go, got out of harm's way, but now it's settled and he's just keeping him in his sights.
Chaz responding with his fastest lap, or fastest first sector of the race now. Gap is 1.9 seconds as they work their way up across the turn 6, back to the lane.
Thank you, guys. Just so I can confirm, this is the pit board down here, and that doesn't look like an LED pit board to me. Kind of tempted to swap the letters around and write tip and see if he turns right and heads to the tip over the back here. Maybe I can give him a bit of a poor direction.
The gentle aromas of the Eastern Creek tip. Yes, we know what that's like.
Look at them. They know. They know who's
Get away
from their Stubbsy. Hey. Now, while we've been having a bit of fun here, obviously we've got 2 hours, 16 minutes remaining, watching our race leader. Just keep an eye on the recovery of Declan Fraser, Peter Hackett. He is up to an excellent 5th place at the moment. Now, admittedly, we've had a safety car and a few things play out there, but Fraser's doing a really good job at the moment, pushing on. They're back to 5th spot.
Great recovery. Oh, the Honduras boys around at the top of the final turn. So the 47 Superbarn entry. Now, is he going to be able to get out of there? That car's parked awkwardly on the exit. They were 10th outright to that point. Really, we don't see too many cars actually end up that far off the final turn. He's looking for a spot maybe to get back into the race, or as the car stopped. Hope this doesn't produce a safety car.
Don't want to end up at the Supercross track or at the go-karting complex off to the right.
Yeah.
We want him back in the action.
It looked like he was attempting to get out, and looks like he's just refired it up. So I think race control will just be waiting to see if he's able to get this out of the gravel trap. And it looks like there's contact, actually.
Oh!
Is
that with the Grove Racing entry? I think it was.
No, I think that was the leader. I think that was the Dale ITM Audi.
Really?
I'd like to see that again.
I don't know if that was, Mercedes or an Audi, but...
I mean, we're not playing director here, so please excuse us for doing that on the run, but if our team can enable us to have a little look at that again, I have a feeling that may have been Brenton Grove in front of Jackson Evans. Here it is slow. Tom, let's have a look, see if we can identify this.
It is.
Yeah, it's the Mercedes of... you're correct.
Good eyes.
Like, the Brenton Grove Mercedes. It's hard to see whether or not there was contact, or if he's spun right in front of him. I mean, yeah, it's tricky.
What got me was seeing the Ferrari going through the shot. Thinking it could have been the front guys.
In the slow-mo there, it's a real drop-off of it as it edges off the curbing there, isn't it? It drops away.
Yeah, a lot of camber on the racing line, but then it drops away. But it does look like that 47 car of Honduras is stuck there. The lights are off, so it seems like the attempts to refire and get it out of there have been unsuccessful. And I'm interested to see how race control are going to tackle this, because we can't really leave that. You can't really leave that car stuck on the outside of turn 11 like that. But look, they've got access to CCTV as well. It might be out of there now. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's not ideal for the Grove Mercedes if there has been contact, because they're running in P3.
Gap stays level at the front though, 1.6 seconds. Mostert did set his fastest lap of the race, and now the safety car is called. So they've given the 47 enough of a chance. And now will this liven up pit lane? We're around that time again. What are we, nearly 44 minutes? In fact, we're exactly 22 minutes since our last pit stop cycle happened. So will this spark up, or will some push on? Hyundai safety car for the second time.
Got to bear in mind how quick we can recover the Superbarn Honduras entry here, so that'll be a little factor, and where they are relative to fuel burn, what the tyres are like underneath them and so on, before we perhaps consider, okay, it's on straight away, taking advantage of it. In comes the Dale ITM Audi. I reckon that Ferrari is struggling to... Hopefully there wasn't contact there, but man, the Ferrari of Mostert just went right up against the back bumper of the Audi as they approach that control line there. Wow.
I've stood there watching you guys come into the pit lane exits, a little grey pole on the side up there, and you guys are absolutely millimetre on that line.
Well, not only that, it goes downhill as well, and you're coming in so fast off the last corner. So, as you can see, driver change. Now, this is going to be important what they're doing here, because they're going to want to try and get, well, the 3 mandatory pit stops done. And then once they're done, any extra pit stop, doesn't count. You don't need a driver change.
Yep.
So they want to get as many driver changes as they can done while there's a safety car. And it looked like there was, as our timing unfortunately is frozen on our end at the moment, but it looked like the Declan Fraser car stayed out. Okay. So we'll just have to monitor that.
Were they, I didn't catch that quite then, were those Pirellis going on this car of Mostert and Liam Talbot, were they used or scrubbed Pirelli tyres? I don't know that they were green. I'm not entirely sure. Hard to tell there under the lights. So busy time in pit lane here at Sydney Motorsport Park for these crews. Dale ITM entry. So Leach is out, ensuring that his driver with the change in Tim Miles is strapped in. There you go, bang on, well done. So the 888 Mercedes-AMG customer racing entry of Declan Fraser has stayed out. Now, will they wait for some of the congestion to go here? What's going to happen? So
and that's El Peroni as well. They'll make up a lap out of this position. So the ACM Finance Audi gets a kick out of this. So safety car out. Second round of pit stops underway here.
I'm intrigued why it let
why they let 888
through.
That's, I'm just looking at that now. It should have not let the 888 through. He's on the lead lap.
He's effectively the race, well, he stayed out, so he's effectively the race leader. So
now it's just maybe to get them to the pits. And that's why they let them go, as the rest, the actual leaders come out of pit lane now. Tim Miles back behind the wheel of the Dale ITM entry. Liam Talbot back behind the wheel of the #1 Ferrari. So the sun disappearing into the distance. And still 2 hours, 10 minutes remaining. 47 minutes of racing. What a shot that is, looking back west over the Blue Mountains. Doesn't night racing just change the aspect? It's so cool.
Right at this point as well, you know, the beautiful Sydney sunset. Thankfully the cloud, I mean, there are obviously some clouds out there, but thankfully there's not too many, so we can enjoy a lovely sunset. And I mean, this race will be going on until it's going to be very dark as well. So the beauty about GT3 cars as well, guys, is that the headlights are extremely powerful. So, I mean, they're built to do you know, Spa 24-hour, Nürburgring 24-hour, Bathurst 12-hour when that race starts in the dark. And I can tell you from experience, having started that race, that I don't think you could have enough headlight action or enough powerful headlights to be able to see.
What are you thinking in these situations now? We're turning into night time. The air conditions will change in the next hour. What changes? Do you lower tyre pressure? Do you increase tyre pressures? What do you do when you transition into the night time?
Well, I mean, into the night time, I mean, the track temperature's going down, and essentially the degradation for tyres is also declining. So the other element of that is the ambient temperature's going down, so engine performance is going to be increased as well. So these are optimal conditions for drivers and for the cars. Once you get probably, let's say, with half an hour to go, the track temperature's potentially dropping too much that we actually start losing some grip. So, but yeah, this is ideal conditions for drivers. We love it when it's nice and cool. It's not raining. There's no UV, especially this time of day or time of evening. But yeah, you'd want to bump the tyre pressures up a little bit. It just depends how long you're going to do in a stint. So, I mean, if you're trying to do an hour stint, you wouldn't want them too high. You'd want to start fairly low. But the good thing about pitting under safety car is it gives everyone a chance to bring the tyre in better rather than having to just thrash the tyre immediately out of the pits. So having the safety car allows for this to occur.
Pushing the tyres too hard in these conditions brings on graining, which means the tyres don't have the optimal grip that they get during the daytime. Now, air conditions outside right now, just a whisker under 19 degrees at the moment. The humidity quite high, around 84%. We had some rain earlier today, or if you want to call it rain, it was more sprinkles going across the Eastern Creek course. But no clouds over the venue right now as we head into the nighttime portion. Safety car is still out. The Honduras Mercedes being wheeled back into pit lane now, which shouldn't be too far away from going back to green flag racing.
So we're just trying to confirm what's happening with the 888 car of Fraser because, yeah, he was affected. Well, the 2 leaders pitted, well, 4 leaders pitted. He stayed out and got waved past the safety car, and he's currently showing up on timing as the leader. So we've just got to try and work out what's happening there. I mean, he's literally on the back of the train here, as we can see, and on timing, he is the leader, having completed 27 laps. So just got to try and understand, well, him and Lucchini, the number 66 car, the only cars to have completed 27 laps. So I don't know whether that's been a glitch when they've gone past the safety car. I mean, the green light looked to be on with that safety car, so effectively, if this is correct, he's now gone from being a lap down to being essentially a lap ahead.
I am to be, as I'm talking to you, scrolling through things like sporting regulations and more, and sup regs and so on. So, but we are chasing that story, so I don't want to say one way or another what it means just until we get a little bit of clarity on that.
It's showing up at the moment that he's 2 minutes and 34 seconds ahead of position number 3 and a lap ahead. So I'm not quite sure how race control is going to play this. I mean,
the definitive thing we do know here is that Declan has not stopped, unlike everyone else. Hey, so he's still remained behind the wheel. Others have pitted and done a driver change, but he was waved by.
And I think what they've done, they've waved him past he should have stayed where he was. Because now he's a lap ahead of the field. But
was he waved by? If he was only doing what he was told, then you know, we can't surmise here without knowing exactly what they were told.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So the Fraser car pitted lap 1 with that what appeared to be a puncture, and then they pitted under that first safety car for a driver change. Now timing at the moment is showing that effectively 3rd onwards they've only done 1 pit stop, but we know that's false because they've all done 2 pit stops.
Makes me wonder if there might be a little glitch here, a little gremlin of some kind. So
it seemed like timing had actually frozen during all that pit stop sequence. So yeah, we'll keep everyone updated as best we can once we find out more information. But as it stands, guys, you would have to say that the Fraser car and Lucchini, for that matter, are
1 and 2.
1 and 2, and they've completed 1 extra lap.
Well, the Ranger Wild Track recovery vehicle's been busy so far tonight. We still have 2 hours of racing to go. We don't want them to be too busy. So
Ford built tough.
Ford built tough. Hey? You know all about that, don't you?
That'll be in 4-wheel drive mode, I reckon.
Happy days.
Picking up the debris.
Happy days. A little bit of Need to look after Racer Industries there and get a new sign out for them. I don't know who took care of that, but anyway, there's continue here under Hyundai safety car. We hope you're enjoying the action. Just a reminder too, we are on air again tomorrow with another big day for the Shannon Speed Series. It's our second last round of the season. We're on air from 10 a.m. Eastern daylight savings time. There is production cars, Formula Open, another race for Monochrome Australia GT4 and more.
Thanks, Rusty. Now, that Honduras car that was stranded at turn 11's back in the lane, and the safety car's still out on the track, so I'm just wondering if race control are just trying to work out, you know, what's happening with the timing, and actually it looks like the lights, are the lights still on? They may have just gone out.
Well, in this situation, if he's been waved through, they're better off waving the field past him to get that back.
Yeah, so I would say that race control are, hence the reason the safety car's still out on the track. Potentially, they're just trying to organise the timing.
Yeah. So in the meantime, our team, obviously including Stubbsy, etc., on the ground, are pursuing this for us. Been a fabulous day here so far at Sydney Motorsport Park. Some changeable weather in GT4 made things interesting. Dry here at the moment with the lights on. It's a great spectacle, this class, when we get to see it for the Bathurst 12 hour with the early start and the late finish at Mount Panorama. It is something truly special.
So yeah, we obviously noticed that, yeah, straight away, that 888 car being waved past. I couldn't fault Declan, or well, Mark Rosser was already 3.5 laps down, but I couldn't fault Declan. It appeared that the green lights were on, and he did what he was legally allowed to do. So
hold that thought. Let's go to Chris in the lane. He might have something on this.
Rusty, wary of adding to any confusion, but I went straight to Peter Hackett as soon as this happened and just said, should you have gone past there? And he just smiled and said, yeah, we were surprised by that as well. They thought that they had played the advantage. It had come to them, the race, and that they were the leaders.
Okay. So thank you, mate. And I know you'll chase more reaction on that. And to be fair, we need to sort of add a little something here for City Hall, for our officials, if the timing has frozen or something like that has happened in the relay of the information. It does make their life a little tricky, right? So we're just got to be a little mindful of that. Hopefully we can get a little resolution here. We still have 2 hours of great competition to go. Should say congratulations to Shane Rudzis and all of the team from Maguire's too. The announcement during the week, Matt, that Maguire's are our new partner for the Bathurst 12 hour next February. That is going to be huge. And I think I saw a yarn around Valentino Rossi talking about maybe winding back other commitments, but not missing out on the Bathurst 12 hour. He loves it.
Oh, he does. And the queues were so big last year and the year before. So big announcement, Maguire's taking over naming rights for Australia's endurance race the last week of January 2025. Looking forward to that. Also, the Ferrari Challenge going to be a part of all that too. It's an ever-changing landscape. Aussie Motorsport, while the Hyundai safety car continues to lead, I sure hope it's been fueled up enough here at the moment while we continue to work out and get this field sorted before we go back to some green flag racing.
I'm just trying to think how they're going to sort this out, because even if they let all those cars through, they'll be behind Fraser. So this is that's the Lucchini car. So that's, I think Fraser went past it. Yeah, that's is that the, I thought I saw the Mercedes pass it at out of turn 5, but that looked like there was not many green lights going on there. So I just don't know which Mercedes that one was, because Lucchini's also a Mercedes.
The original pass happened on the way down to turn 6.
That's what I thought. Yeah, I thought that Fraser went past at turn 6 because Rosser was behind him. So yeah, we might be able to get a shot of that one. I think that looked like the Lucchini car, and if so, it didn't look like there were green lights on the safety car there. But yeah, we'll have to just get another replay of the Fraser car. But yeah, I would say this is why we haven't gone back to green. Race control's still trying to work it out. And as I said, I'm just trying to think how they will, because if they let, well, where do you start? That's the question.
Well, as you see on the track, is how it should be. Now they're trying to suss it out themselves with 1 hour in the books of this 3-hour endurance race tonight, the Fanatec GT World Challenge event. You've just joined us. We've had 2 rounds of pit stops. It's our second safety car period of the night. The Honduras car, Supermarkets Mercedes, going off the track at the final turn and needing some assistance to get back into the pit area. Right now, race control sorting out who should be leading this round at the start. We know it should be Miles, Talbot and Grove. That's the top 3 as you see it on the track.
Yeah, that Fraser car, that's gone from being a lap and a half down to a lap up the road.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this will be why the safety car's still out. So I'm sure there'd be a lot of discussions and conversations going on in race control between James Taylor and the rest of the race control group that we have at Sydney Motorsport Park. James Taylor also being the race director for the Supercars Championship as well. So he was obviously on the ground at Bathurst last week. Oh, actually, recovery is still picking up stuff. So may as well, while they're trying to figure this all out.
It's the Ford Ranger recovery unit picking up some debris at the top of the final turn here at Sydney Motorsport Park. So it was a very feisty start, to say the least, and that early safety car came out. Co-drivers jumped in, or the AM drivers jumped in for what was then a 22-minute stints, effectively, of racing here so far. You can't do no more than 100 minutes over the course of the 3 hours. Clock stops at 0. We get 1 extra lap after that. Here's the replay. So this is what we saw before. This is what got our attention. So the safety car has got the field stacked up, and the 888 Mercedes is here, but they're still showing orange on the top.
Yeah, if that's showing orange only. I just don't know if the back of the safety car shows, like, I don't know if we would see green from the front, but yeah, I mean, he's clearly off to the side, so I don't know. It's interesting, that's for sure. But it looks like they've reset the timing, so Miles is now showing now at P1 in the timing. So I'd say that's why we've been under safety car for this long. Hopefully, I'm sure they'll get things sorted and we'll be underway as soon as possible, folks.
Well, we've got this opportunity.
Let's go to Chris, who's might have an update for us on this. Stubbsy?
Well, as we let that play out and still try to come to terms with exactly what's going on, we thought we'd catch up with Jayden Ojeda. Jayden, talk us through the strategy and how this race has come to you in this situation.
Yeah, everyone's still trying to work it out, even myself a little bit, but we took advantage of the first safety car to do 2 pit stops. So I jumped in, I did out, I didn't even see turn 1 once because I came straight back in. Paul jumped in, so he was driving out there when a lot of the other pros were in there. So then the next safety cars come out and then all the other AMs have jumped in, and so we've got a little bit of an advantage on our side. Like, we'll end up being on the same lap, but I'll be able to jump in maybe 10-15 minutes earlier than the other pros, so that's our advantage, I guess.
Tell us, how are your frequent flyers going at the moment? Can you try and detail where you have been in the last couple of weeks and where you're going?
Yeah, so 3rd race weekend in a row. I've got a bit of status with a few airlines now, so it's looking pretty good. But yeah, I was in the US a couple of weeks ago for Indianapolis, the Indy 8-hour, then Bathurst 1000 last weekend. And then between that, I got home straight away Sunday night, went straight to Malaysia Monday morning, tested with Craft Bamboo on Tuesday, flew home, landed midday Wednesday, came straight here, and then I go to Japan on Wednesday next week to do another race in GT at Okayama. So busy. And then 1 weekend off, and then I'll go back to 2 weekends, 1 at Bathurst and again at Japan. So 6 race weekends in 7 weeks, but I'm loving it. It's good.
Tell us about your 1000 experience. It doesn't matter where you finish in the field, it's always a cracking weekend, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a fast-paced race. Like, it's insane that we did 5 hours straight green flag running. So, you know, as a driver, you always want that, preferably, because it means you can really get into the race, you can work your strategy, fuel save, and you can really find your rhythm. So it was a fast-paced race, and I love the event always. Like, enjoy up watching it, so always cool to take part, and we had a strong car, so it was a good day.
Just on this situation, so you were surprised that Paul was waved past. Was that your read on? Because where he's in the chain now, is that how it's come out to play, do you think?
Still trying to work it out. Yeah, we got waved by past the safety car. I'm not sure if we should have been or not, but they told us to go past. So it's like being at school. You just do what the teacher tells you to do. Especially
if it works to your advantage. Jayden, all the best with all the travels and everything that you've got coming up.
Awesome, thank you.
There you go. So he is talking about just doing what you're told, obviously, as that plays out. Now, SRO have an excellent, for the competitors, for the constituents, they have an excellent app, and I can tell you that app is lighting up at the moment. So I'm not going to get into that because that wouldn't be right. But as soon as we know, as soon as we have an official clarification, we will let you know. That's probably the main thing. For now, there appears to have been a level of reset around the timing. I think you both have been talking about that, haven't you? So
it's been adjusted, whether it's... Yeah. How would you word it, Thomas?
It's been altered.
It's been altered. That's the word, yes.
Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. I mean, Fraser's been relegated back to, well, essentially the position he was in. They've put him on the same lap as the leaders. It's still showing that Tim Miles' car has only completed one pit stop, but
that's not
right. Pretty sure they've done two like the rest. So, yeah, we'll have to follow that one up. But safety car lights are out. Tim Miles will lead the field away, albeit he's very close to that safety car. That hasn't left a big gap there to the safety car.
Hearing that there is a request to investigate the Brenton Grove versus Superbarn entry, which triggered this safety car, the Honduras entry. So we'll see where that lands as well. They're busy in race control at the moment. Fraser hustles on cold tyres through turn 1 and moves up into 4th place.
Great move. I was watching the back of the field there, and there was a couple of cars that were almost overlapping at the line and were caught out by the field stacking up, but everything's okay as we go back to racing here. And it's Audi on Ferrari. Miles and Talbot go back at it. And here comes the Ferrari. Thinks about the move at turn 4. Access denied by the Dale ITM entry.
And what this has done, guys, is because Fraser didn't end up pitting, he's now up against all the AM drivers. So keep posted. I reckon we could see Fraser getting to the lead of this field potentially. And on that note, car number 7, Tim Miles, is under investigation for the safety car restart. And that could be what I was talking about, how close he was to that safety car. So a lot of things happening in this race. A lot of errors, a lot of, you know, little 1%ers, as we call them, that can lead up to, you know, what effectively is the result at the end of a 3-hour race.
They're busy in the hamburger, that's for sure, in race control.
It's a race with a lot, that's for sure.
It's a race with a lot,
hamburger with a lot, that's for sure.
Fraser really close to Stephen Grove here, who's now at the wheel of that car that Brenton was driving until the stop. So Fraser, so they come through one again, and Talbot stretches the legs of that Ferrari. Now, it was a different story when Brendan Leach was at the wheel of the Dale ITM entry. Here's Fraser up the inside, gets it done on the Grove entry, and Stephen's a little bit wide here. That makes him vulnerable.
That's Peroni behind the wheel. Remember, there are at least 2 laps down. The ACM Finance car, so Grove not putting up a fight in the number 4 Mercedes. Peroni down in 11th position, outright ahead of Honduras, who are several laps down now in their Mercedes-Benz. So we've cleared that out. A safety car period that went for well over 15 minutes. It's now let the hounds back out onto the racetrack. Talbot to the lead, Miles, Fraser the one to keep an eye on. Elliot Shute running back in the 2nd Ferrari behind. Grove in the number 4, Marcel Zalua just hanging around the top 6 in a Tagani Motorsports entry.
Only 2 pros out there at the moment, being Fraser and Peroni. One of them, 2 laps down, as you touched on, Nolte. And Fraser, you would say, is going to get to the lead of this field relatively soon. They're on an alternate strategy, if you like, because they did get hamstrung with that early issue. We assume a left rear puncture on lap 1. And it's been a heck of a story for the 888 car. They've gone from a lap down to a lap ahead to all sorts of things. So interesting to see what happens to this car number 7, because that car has been the one at the front of the field pretty much. Well, once Brendan, I should say, made that very aggressive manoeuvre on Chaz Mostert into turn 2 somewhat about 30 minutes ago, that Dale ITM Audi has been super fast. So a penalty, a safety car infringement, you know, normally can be a decent old penalty. Just looking at that shot, how the glow from the exhausts coming off the side of the Mercedes. Now the exhausts actually run through the sills either side of the Mercedes-AMG GT3. So very hot work, a few flames. You can look straight down that exhaust. It's impressive. I'm sure we'll be seeing some glowing front brake discs shortly as well.
So down to turn number 8.
Red hot couriers.
It's a red hot courier driving it, I reckon.
Sure is.
Down the short chute towards the completion of another lap. Track well and truly under lights now with the sun set out to the west. So into the final turn, Miles. Door is open, a little bit of contact in the middle of the turn. And now brings in, this will be almost 3 wide. This is a bit cheeky heading down the main straight. Mercedes covering off. And now pulls back across the middle of the racetrack. That could have been a high-speed incident on the way down the Brabham straight.
Yeah, an hour 50 to go. Peroni doesn't need to be risking it too much, being 2 laps down, but in saying that, he's got the pace on Declan. Declan would be getting the radio message to say, hey, if he's pressuring you and you're having to push a bit too hard, just let him through, follow him up. But Fraser's got about a 3-second gap now to Talbot. And if Fraser can get to the lead, try and get some form of a gap. That's only going to help later in the race. But once the next random pit stop happens, which will be actually the last compulsory pit stop for everyone else, that'll be all the pros getting in, and that'll be Peter Hackett. I've done it too. That'll be Peter Hackett getting back in the car, and then that car will need to do another compulsory pit stop. So there's still 2 compulsory pit stops to go in that 888, where the Talbot entry, the Miles entry, and the majority of the rest of the field only have 1 more CPS to complete.
And they'll be hoping for a longer stint here. We've had 2 very short pit stops all in the first hour, so you'd want to really stretch this out if you've only got 1 to go.
Well, I think, yeah, I mean, if there's another safety car, they'll have to do the CPS and put the pro back in, and then at that point, no matter what happens, the pro's staying in. So that's where it is really handy for every other car outside of the 888 car, is that they've only got 1 left to go. They put the main driver back in, and then any safety car after that, if they want to pit, they don't have to change drivers.
Okay, a little bit of news coming through. I'm not necessarily going to, because I can't clarify this, but a lot of stuff is lighting up in relation to communications around please explain, naturally from those of you watching at home, and especially from our constituents here at the circuit, right? So we are being told there was an issue with the timing loop at exactly the same time that the safety car was deployed, and some of that data was apparently lost or missed, which meant that the actual leader was not identified. Now, both of those issues have been corrected, and timing appears to be correct now. So that's as it stands. I can also tell you, and again, I won't necessarily identify which teams, but some teams have asked for a please explain, and was there a manual adjustment on the lap count? What is the story with that? So that's in play. Chris does a very good job for us. I wouldn't mind betting he'll be able to get someone, a spokesperson from race control, to clarify this.
That's a great point there, Rusty. And we actually noticed at the time that the timing screen froze and the track map froze as well. So that could make sense as to why the issue occurred. And when all those cars were in pit lane, we couldn't see that on timing. So whether or not race control were having the same problem, that would probably explain it. But from what I saw, from the rear shot that we saw live, it looked like Fraser was waved by. I mean, the safety car was to the left, and it looked like the green lights were on. And I don't feel like that 888 car did anything wrong. But it appears that they've somewhat rectified it. Whether that car would have pitted, we'll never know.
Let officialdom sit on that one and sort that one out. It's a busy place up there, and they do cop a lot of criticism from time to time. You can imagine there's a lot of radios going on, there's a lot of internal chat going on, there's teams begging and pleading and making excuses for what's happened when penalties are applied, but it's sorted.
This makes me think back to Pukekohe 2019 when Jamie blazed past the safety car, that's quite interesting. So that's exactly what that made me think of, but I think slightly different circumstances. Just a little bit. But yes, at the moment, Talbot leading the way from Fraser. Fraser now within half a second of that Ferrari. So we've just had confirmation as well from race control that there's no further action on car 7 for that safety car restart. So that's great news for them.
So that's cleared. We can go back to racing now. So Stokell is not the third car you can see in shot here. He's further up the road, some 6 seconds away from Declan Fraser. It's Alex Peroni trying to get himself back to the front to at least get a lap back on the field. And the ACM Finance car that Mark Rosser started the race with was off the track down here in turn number 1. And great to have Peroni back in Australia after a stint overseas. He's currently running in the GT World Challenge Europe Endurance Cup. We've seen the European Le Mans Series racing with fellow Aussie James Allen over the last couple of years. There's some stints in open wheels, and who can forget that incredible crash at Monza a few years ago in F3. Another Tasmanian that's been on the rise. How many good drivers we coming out of Tasmania in the last few years?
And we've talked about it before in the GT4 race, a bit of a connection there with Buckley Motors in one of the Mercs there, and they're going to be proud sponsor of the final round of the Australian Rally Championship in late November, which you can see here on, incidentally, highlights on 7 Plus of that. Looking forward to bringing that to you. So back we go. So Tim Miles has dropped to 4th now. It's Talbot from Fraser, Stokell 3rd, Miles and Grove. Talbot's advantage is 0.3. And these two, look at this, it's on here. Tim's trying to fend off Stephen Grove. So Stephen, I love when Stephen gets the helmet on. He gets this next level of sort of intensity about it, doesn't he?
It's like all the workplace stress comes out behind the wheel of the car. And what a team they've been over the last few years. Of course, he and Brenton spent time overseas in Porsche Super Cup. It was a joint combination between them and the Kellys that got them into supercars, and now a powerhouse team in the Repco Supercars Championship.
Tim Miles likes the notion, as we see those front discs and the glowing exhaust pipe on the Audi, he likes the notion of exactly what you've just described. I mean, he works for Miles Advisory Partners, has been involved in the selling of medium to large companies, has been involved with supercars around that whole process and so on. And this is his, as is so often described, it's a bit like his game of golf in many ways. And at Phillip Island this year, that epic battle that he was involved in sharing this same car with Brendan Leach. I mean, Paul Morris is one of the first to come up and congratulate him on arguably one of his best drives. So Tim's had some real moments, some really good moments in the 24 Championship, definitely.
Shouldn't forget, they're race winners in Fanatec GT World Challenge this year.
He switched from kale to spinach, by the way. Just the update for you. That's the way he's gone quiet.
Same colour at least.
Yeah.
So we're in that little holding pattern of this race. 1 hour and 16 minutes into tonight's race. It's part of Colour Spec Race Sydney. Back tomorrow, of course, from 10:05 Australian Eastern, with a big day of motorsport wrapping up just after 5 o'clock. And then we head to the mountain and the Bathurst International to wrap up the Shannon Speed Series for season 2024. But a lot of racing to get through. You just start to see the marbles, the chunks of rubber that are peeling away from the tyres on the outside of the turn number 1. They'll play a huge part later in the race. But for now, Grove menacing the back of the Dale ITM Audi Melbourne Performance Centre, looking after this car. Same too with the OnlyFans Audi that runs in 3rd position. Paul Stokell back behind the wheel.
Fraser now got within about 3/10 of Talbot. It's just dropped to half a second, but still, I think what Fraser needs to do, Nolts, is to clear that number 1 Ferrari of Talbot, get some clear air, try and build a gap, because if they've got any chance of, well, potentially winning this race, he needs to try and build a gap so when Hackett jumps back in, he can just try and use that clear air to his advantage, because as we know in this 3-hour race, Nolts, there's no extra pit stop penalty time. So effectively, everyone's pit stops should be the same length.
Stubbsy.
Yeah, just standing here with Brendan.
We'll come back to Chris.
Just standing here with Brendan Leach, and Sorry, Rusty. Just standing here with Brendan Leach at the moment. There's a few little issues to tick off. Number one, the safety car restart. That's been given the all clear, so that's a massive relief.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Tim was a little bit close to the safety car. I'm not sure if the driver of the safety car was asleep or Tim was asleep, but yeah, everything's okay there. So no further investigation, and let's just press on and see how we go.
I think play of the day, it's fair to say, your dive bomb on Chaz Mostert, mate. That was a beauty, using all of the track and then some.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the old stealth bomber's feeling pretty good out there. So, no, having a lot of fun. I mean, prepared the move for like 5 laps on him, and then this one in particular lap, he turned in a little bit early, but it's good fun. I'm really enjoying having some hard racing with these guys. It's always pretty awesome to go against the supercar drivers. They're yeah, super amazing. It's very similar to what I'm used to overseas as well. So yeah, just having lots of fun, and yeah.
There's a lot of drivers that have been very busy here in Australia. You've been very busy internationally. Can you just detail what you've been up to over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I was racing in Indianapolis for the 6-hour with IMSA, and then the 8-hour with IGTC, SRO, part of the same organisation as this race, and then Lamborghini Super Trofeo Europe and Pro-Ams last weekend, where we had 2 wins, so it was pretty awesome.
Madness. Now, in terms of how this race is situated for you at the moment, everyone's kind of looking at there's maximum driver times, there's a lot to be played out in this one. How do you think you're situated?
Yeah, I think we're in a pretty good place right now. I mean, the Ferrari is really rapid. I mean, Liam's doing a really good job out the front there. A couple of cars in front of us that are on a different strategy because they haven't, and they've still got a few extra pit stops than us to do. But I mean, the front 3-4 cars are kind of locked in on the same strategy. So we're all going to be, quite close at the end, I would say, but I'll definitely be behind at the moment from Chaz. But yeah, let's see how it goes in the last hour. I'll get the old stealth bomber back out and see if we can make some action.
Mate, you have absolutely set the stage beautifully for us. Well done, thanks.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Chris Stubbs in pit lane. It's our leader, Liam Talbot, with the 888 car in and out of the pits. Peter Hackett now behind the wheel of the Red Hot Couriers entry. And now Paul Stokel. It's about 9 seconds to catch on Liam Talbot. Tim Miles in search of his co-driver. Brendan Leach in 3rd position. Stephen Grove. Elliot Shute in the number 8 Ferrari for Arise Racing is next. AM class leader Marcel Zalua in car 44, running 6th outright.
Back we go. Stephen again looking racy versus Tim Miles. Round through turn 8. Look at that glowing exhaust pipe that Thomas Randall was talking about before on the 888 Grove Racing entry. Nice work by Tim. You can see the Audi's strengths in certain places relative to the Merc. Placing the Audi reasonably well. Looks like Stephen's a little bit closer here in the draft as they run down the Brabham Straight. Not close enough to pull out for a run through 1. So it remains 3rd and 4th between those two. Now, in terms of up front, Talbot v Stokel, it's now 9.9 seconds. The Brendan Leach, Tim Miles Audi, when Brendan was driving it before, has the quickest lap of the race at 1 minute 28.1197.
For Stokel, gone back up into the position where he qualified. Have a think about our pole. Similar Ram Motorsport Mercedes-Benz back in 9th position. Mike Sheargold back behind the wheel. Garth Walden had a quick steer of that car earlier today. Could have been stoked to have that first pole position, but they're in some pretty experienced company at the start of that race today.
They were, and you know, Sheargolds appeared to really struggle at the start there, and you know, they're back at, well, they're 3rd in class, and they're actually showing about 1.4 laps off the lead. However, they have done a 3rd stop, so it's probably not indicative of where they actually are. But yeah, Talbot's driven really well here, guys, and I mean, he's got a 10-second lead over Stokel. Fraser, as Brendan Leach was being interviewed by Stubbsy, the Fraser 888 car pitted. So Peter Hackett's back on board the Mercedes there. And Tim Miles, they're about 23 seconds off the leader. And remember, before the safety car, Brendan Leach was leading in that car. So Brendan might have a bit of work to do in this last stop if it runs green to the end now.
I don't think it's going to be an easy Saturday night for BG when he gets back in the car later on. Miles with Grove, Stephen Grove behind the wheel, up through turn number 2. While the leaders are down at turn number 6.
They do come with lots, depending on the mark, with lots of things to help the driver comfort, shall we say. How important is that sort of stuff on a night like tonight, or is it not so much of a factor once it starts to cool a little bit?
I think on a night like tonight, Rusty, it's probably not as important. However, one thing that drivers love is constant airflow. So whether that's from events that are in the car, there might be some in the your side window. The Audi is known to have some coming out from next to the steering column, and then helmet air, so forced air that's blown into the driver's helmet. That's a big one that us drivers really love, is having a cool head, and you kind of want that in all conditions, and these GT cars can actually get quite warm inside.
Okay, you understand the benefit of that, having dealt with trainers and so on, because your head loses so much heat and so on. Having that cool is vitally important, isn't it?
It is, and I actually did the Bathurst 12 hour this year, and unfortunately the helmet fan fitting failed, so we did pretty much 11 hours as a team without it, and I can tell you that was pretty hot work. So and the helmet fans, they actually have carbon monoxide filters as well, which is more from a driver safety point of view, so we're not inhaling exhaust fumes. May not be from our car, but if you're following a car very closely. So these are things that are regulated, and they're also fitted into the cars for the vents that flow into the vehicle as well, so not necessarily just the helmet air fan, but you can hook up cool suits to these cars. There's options to have air conditioning in the cars, however that weighs more and uses a bit of power, or battery power. So I'd say on a night like tonight, I highly doubt there'd be anyone wearing a cool suit, but everyone will be using helmet air and having air vents, because that constant flow of air is pretty important. But these modern day GT3 cars, with all that sort of stuff, beg your pardon, it makes it a lot more comfortable.
Cool. Arise Racing with this brand new Ferrari that joined the 2024 championship, leading the way. This is a super professional outfit in every aspect, from the detail when you walk into the garages to some of the people they have on board. Matt, they've made quite a splash with 2 cars to begin the championship. Elliot Shute in the second of them is actually only 2.4 seconds behind Stephen Grove in that fight for 4th, so we need to keep a little eye on that. Race being led by Liam Talbot here in the car that he shares with Chas Mostert. My point is, a bit of chat around with the likes of Adam DeBore and so on, that it might expand to more cars and so on.
Certainly room for it over there in Western Australia. Of course, Shute was one of the great exponents out of the Radical Cup Series and got the tap on the shoulder to come and join the Ferrari program.
Really cool that they promoted him via that hey, like you wouldn't... I mean, that's another thing about our Shannon Speed Series. There's been crossover. We saw Tom Heyman today, who's come out of Trans Am, now in GT4. But I love the fact that Arise have done that. Someone out of Radical Cup that's a part of the offering here this weekend at Sydney Motorsport Park, now with a drive in a Ferrari.
Certainly Arise have brought that east-west battle between the country now to the Radical Cup Series, and maybe that'll be the case with Fanatec GT World Challenge going into 2025 as well. So a great young driver, Elliot, of course, teamed up for the win with Jackson Evans at the GT Festival at the previous round at Phillip Island, and currently running back in 5th position outright.
Just wanted to touch on, aside from the on-track racing, how well lit the circuit really is. It's awesome. From a driving point of view, it's beautifully well lit, and then just watching from here and the broadcast, I mean, the New South Wales government, the circuit, the Australian Racing Drivers Club have done a fantastic job over the last few years to invest in that lighting facility. So this circuit can be used through the day, through the night, and I think it's just fantastic that there is that opportunity to showcase some beautiful race cars in the night time.
Temporary lights were brought in here back in the 90s for a touring car championship route. They were used for the Triple Challenge back in the day and for the drag racing events, and then mid-2020 those lights went in. 138 light towers around this course, featuring 860 lights.
All permanent.
All permanent. Oh, dramas here in the middle of turn number 1.
Is that the Rosser car? Whose is that?
That's the Marcel Zalua car by the Valmont team with the Batman-style flames out the back.
Pointing the wrong direction off the exit of one. That's gone round at decent pace there, I reckon. It's the back of that car is pointing towards turn 2.
That's not the spot you want to be stopped, guys. That approach speed out of turn 1. I mean, turn 1 on a qualifying lap is, well, no brake. Almost flat, so...
Apologies, I glanced and thought it was the Merc, but it's in fact the Audi. So, wow, well, hopefully we can get this thing turned around. Yellow flags being waved here at turn 1. They're fast through 1. Hopefully it's all okay here. Good presence of mind. I think that's Elliot Shute coming through there a moment ago.
He's going to give the Super Cheap Auto sign a nudge. He doesn't want to grab reverse and back out into oncoming traffic, even with the slightly smaller field that we have here this weekend.
Hopefully there's a marshal there or something, mate. Maybe letting him know when he's safe to reverse. But, I mean, it's probably the worst spot. One of the worst spots he could be stopped. He's trying to reverse it, but I don't know whether he's stuck now in trying to find reverse. If he can't find reverse, he won't be able to go forward, and this could be potentially another safety car, guys.
It could be the critical moment of the race as well, with just under an hour and a half remaining. So the 3-time AM Class winners this year, Zalua and Sergio Perez, searching, trying to find it.
It's going to be a safety car here, I reckon.
He's not going to get out of that.
He looks bogged there, potentially. And that's, we can't be leaving the car there, so I'd say he's pretty stuck.
Safety car. We're just over the halfway mark of this race. Safety car called again.
And you know what this means? Everyone will be coming in, I reckon, for their final compulsory pit stop.
Wowee.
So we've got 46 minutes of racing that time through before.
Well, that's double.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
Hyundai safety car comes out onto the track.
Remember, they had quite a decent amount of track time on Thursday here, these competitors, to do some evaluation and so on. And there is that whole management for you as competitors between what the tyre wear is like and then also what transpires under the fuel load too as it lightens off and so on, isn't it?
Yeah, correct. And these Pirellis are known to be extremely... have extreme longevity, shall I say. Very durable tyre. And I remember at the 12-hour this year, every lap was like a qualifying lap. It was brutal and just so physical. So it's not really about managing the tyre. However, Bathurst is a lot easier on tyres than Sydney Motorsport Park. So whether this is a case of, as we sort of touched on before with Mark Ross's spin at turn 1, could just be tyres are getting older, fuel loads coming off, maybe thinks there's more grip than there is, backstepped around, and being an Audi, it's a rear engine too, so they're already probably a bit more twitchy than something like a Mercedes. But he's done well to keep it off the wall there, and look, the Ford Recovery Ranger,
he's at it again.
Plug there.
We'll
get that thing out, and he'll be back on track. And I would say that it'll be a short safety car, but no one has actually pitted yet, so. I don't know whether they will pit, or this is going to be interesting to see what happens here.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. Quick comment, Tickford Racing, how you all rolled out of Bathurst, looking ahead to Gold Coast. We have talked about that a little bit with both cars, and the fact that, you're a more condensed operation in 2024, I think there's lots of little positives starting to show from you guys as a result of that move, potentially.
Look, I think it's been a great move for the team. Back to 2 cars, Cam and myself, we've known each other for such a long time, over 20 years, and we work so well together as a team, not only just between Cam and myself, but my engineer, Chris Stuckey, Sam Potter, Brad Withshusen, and we have a new CEO this year, Simon Brookhouse, who's come into the team, and he's found his feet in the organisation and, getting along with everyone. I literally had a meeting with every employee in the team when he first arrived, which was pretty cool. So, I think going back to 2 cars, it's more efficient. The effort is, and the load or the focus is put across those 2 cars. So, I think that's pretty handy. But everyone's staying out, guys. So, looks like they don't want to pit under this caution.
Now, I think I'm going to jump out for a little bit, maybe for half an hour. James Baldwin is going to
remember him?
jump
he was here earlier today.
Billy Baldwin. They call him Billy Baldwin.
Don't call him that. And then you can have a little breather at the end, but we're not the kale spinach guy. He's going to see for the whole lot.
That's why he's had it, yeah.
You're going to grab us a few coffees while you're gone.
What can I get you? What's your order, sir?
I'll get a...
Oh, no.
A soy iced flat white with some caramel. No, the latte will suffice. 1 car's in the lane. Lucchini
Paul Lucchini's come in. And thank you, Paul, because it's taken the heat off of Tom Randall's coffee order. As the field capture Hyundai's safety car. So he's the only one to pit in this cycle. Stokel with the lead. Miles, Stephen Grow, Elliott Shute, and Liam Talbot, but still an hour and 25 minutes to go. I wonder if this is backing up that point before. Are we still too far away from the finish to be putting the pros back in?
Possibly.
Or they're going to wait and come another lap and just end our speculation?
Well, it's going to be a question on fuel, I guess. So, you know, if they pit now, is there enough in the tank to get to the end as well? So, if they pit now and there isn't, they're going to have to pit again.
Yeah.
So, that's going to be the question mark of essentially why they're staying out. It's probably the safety car's potentially at a critical window that, yeah, if you were to pit now, would you make it home if it runs green? So, that'll be what they're probably debating.
Feels like the leader's definitely not going to go into the pits. He's warming the tyres or keeping the heat in the tyres. Now, the number 1 Ferrari.
I'd say that they'd be staying out. You know what they'd be saying? It's got a message from a good friend of mine, Mr. Simon Chapman. They're staying out to meet the AM driver minimum time. So that would make a lot more sense.
Can't do any more than 100 minutes during this 3-hour endurance race for Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. If you just joined the coverage tonight, wondering where the 87 entry of Will Brown and Brad Schumacher, the car never made it to the start of tonight's race. Crashed in qualifying. It's a shame. Very, very competitive all season long. We'll see them back for the final round at Mount Panorama later this year. So the Hyundai safety car heading back towards the pits. Liam Talbot, a huge amount of experience. Heading up Paul Stokel. You've got the lap car of Alex Peroni in the middle, and he just missed it by a whisker on getting at least one lap back. He'll now have to fight. No, he's decided to exit and go straight into pit lane. As we go back to racing with an hour and 23 minutes of competition, this is Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. The Ferrari picks up where it left off and charges up towards turn number 2. Stokel second. Miles runs in third ahead of Grove. Elliott Shute. Woodman now behind the wheel of car number 16 that he shares with Ben Schutz. The 888 car of Peter Hackett making the move in the Red Hot Couriers entry. The 888 machine running back in 8th spot.
Watch for Stokel here, Nolts, because we know how fast he is behind the wheel, that 181 Audi. Once he gets some tyre temperature up, he'll be really pressuring Liam Talbot. And on that, the juice, as they call him, Jaden Ojeda, is behind the wheel of the number 66 Mercedes. So that's a driver change, but that car is effectively a lap or nearly a lap behind the field. He's just coming into turn 9 now, and the leaders are approaching turn 8. So that they need another safety car if they could get one. But they've actually completed all 3 stops, so they're the lead car that's completed 3 stops.
Current AM-class leader is Woodman back in 6th position. The car he shares with Schutz. We've done our driver change in the commentary position. Greg Rust is feet up on the desk next door. We welcome in James Baldwin for what's been an enthralling race so far.
What did I miss? This has been non-stop. I've been keeping tabs on what's been going on, team, and drama everywhere you look. This is what can happen in endurance racing. 3 hours, as you said, Nolts, an hour and 20 to run. Tell you what, lots to play out still. As we are here in the night time, I left the desk and it was still daylight at Sydney Motorsport Park, and goodness, these cars look great under lights.
Certainly do. Crowd watching on a beautiful night. In fact, temperatures only come down 1 degree since we started at 6:45 local time. But the big thing for me, T. Randall, is the humidity is roaring right up. We're in the mid-90s now. We started in the late 70s at the start of tonight's race.
What do they say? It's not the heat that kills you, it's the humidity. But I don't think there's much heat up at Sydney Motorsport Park at the moment.
You're one of those guys.
Well, it's a classic dad joke, isn't it, Nolts? There's a good little battle here between Hackett and... Is that the Woodman car that he's gone past? We'll have to look at that. But Ojeda, as we know, is very fast in these machines.
He was a factory Merc driver at the Bathurst 12 Hour this year as well. So, and co-driving with Jack LeBrock in the Erebus Camaro at Bathurst and Sandown this year, did a great job. So yeah, he's just set the fastest lap of the race for that car, albeit about 78 seconds off the lead. But like I said, that car has completed 3 stops. So be interested to see if they, don't have to stop again. So we'll keep an eye on that. But at the moment, Talbot in the lead, doing a cracking job. Stokel was 8 tenths off on that last lap. So yeah, I thought Stokel might have actually been a little bit more on the back of Talbot here. So yeah, whether or not he's just biding his time, Nolts. But yeah, the top 3, Talbot, Stokel and Miles.
Here is the leader, Talbot, as he's done on every restart. 2.2 seconds already after the restart. He and Chaz Boston have been a great combo this year. Of course, Talbot, no stranger to GT competition. He's done it for a long time now, whether it be in Australia or across the world. Stokel not losing touch after starting from the front row. Renee Gracie had a steer of that car earlier in the race. Should be back behind the wheel soon of the 181 OnlyFans entry, the second of the Melbourne Performance Centres cars, with Miles still running in 3rd position. There it is. And of course, Stokel, like Talbot, years of experience, open wheel legend of the 90s, 3-time Australian Drivers' Champion for the Barana team. Probably could have gone to Europe. Isn't that lull period like Scaife was in the day, where we had the talent, we just didn't have the path to get to Formula 1?
It's always tough, Nolts, as an Aussie, to try and make it over, whether it's in Europe or America. There's a lot required, a lot of sacrifice that you have to endure to try and make some form of a career overseas, if that's what you desire. But you know, I mean, I guess the biggest limiting factor is always going to be budget, and it's tough for an Aussie to break it over there. You need to have private backers if you can. It's hard to get corporate sponsorship as an Aussie over in Europe. So yeah, I know all too well what it's like to try and make a career out of there, and you know, I'm very fortunate in the position I am now. But yeah, it's Stokel, as we've seen in this Audi this year, he has put some impressive performances together, and Ojeda at the moment is lighting up the time screens. He's just gone purple in the middle sector, and he was purple in the middle sector on the lap before. So the first sector currently fastest goes to Leach with a 25.4. Ojeda the middle sector with a 37.7, and Declan Fraser with a 24.3 in the final sector. So Ojeda here, he's purple to the middle sector on this lap. So this could be a fastest lap that may occur. And oh, he's just missed out. A 28.12 plays 28.11 by Brendan Leach. So he's trying to gain back some time in that car. He's 55 seconds off the car in front, but yeah, I don't know whether or not I don't know whether he will go to the end or not.
Fastest that car's gone all race long here today. So check in with the realtor entries. Car just scuffing across the curb, the middle through turn 2 and 3, one of the older sections of asphalt here. So in 66, Paul Lucchini was behind the wheel of this car. Ojeda. Now, we've all experienced jet lag over the years. Do you think sometimes you're so tired from the travel that you just can push yourself a bit harder? I think that's what he's doing right now.
Well, because it's night time, he probably thinks he's driving the day. So
well, it could be breakfast time.
Yeah, it could be breakfast. That car is running so low to the ground, Nolts. It's so much sparks, and as the under tray is just skimming the ground, and well, all of it really, at the front and the side skirts. Just one thing I wanted to bring up is the rule about the maximum drive time per driver. Now, we did mention this at the start of the coverage, and we briefly talked about a potential reason for why they didn't pit under that last safety car, and that is because the maximum drive time per driver, whether it be the pro or the bronze driver, is 100 minutes, so an hour and 40 minutes. And there was about an hour and 23 minutes to go when they went green. So it's a bit too early to put the pro back in when they've already done a bit of running. So this is why we're seeing these bronze drivers still in the cars. So that's something that all the teams will be monitoring between their two drivers, about trying to make sure that neither of them go over the limit.
Some of the experts predicting 70 minutes per tank of fuel. particularly with the Mercedes. So heading towards that window.
Another reason why they wouldn't have been able to pit, because if we think 70 minutes a tank, an hour 20, that's 80 minutes. So that's an extra splash and dash. So yeah, I think there's a few factors at play here. Fuel loads and driver time are the main ones, and we'll have to monitor that Ojeda car. That's the lead car that's done 3 stops. Just have to confirm whether they were all CPSs. But at the moment, Talbot out in the lead, nearly a 5-second lead from Stokell, Miles. Stephen Grove is hanging in there behind Miles, and Elliott Shute not far behind as well. And here's potentially why. What's going on up ahead?
So on the Shannon's replay, was there a bit of contact, or was there a bit of a psych out maybe on a daylight TM Audi on the exit of turn number 8 there at the notorious hairpin?
So that was the 888. So that's done that. That's done its, well, it says 3 stops on the timing, but we know that first stop was for the puncture on lap 1. So they're effectively, they pitted under green, so they're effectively a lap down on the leaders. Not a true lap down, but just trying to make up some time on that Tim Miles car.
You see number 8 Ferrari with Shute behind the wheel on the back of Grove. So this is for position 4 and 5 on the track. And now they've decided to pull the trigger and bring in the Grove car. So he'll come in and pit. Stephen Grove getting set to hand the keys over, at least the starter button, over to Brenton Grove.
You'd say that this will be their last CPS, and with an hour 13 to go, they must think that they're all good on driver time, and hopefully that's them to the end on fuel as well. Whether or not they might need to do some fuel saving, I'm not quite sure. I don't know the economies of the Mercedes, but they think that now is the right time to butt the bullet, like you said.
They'll be a very happy team as well today, noting young Oscar Target, who's part of that Grove Racing junior family. I'm sure that might be interested in seeing where he's at a little later after this race wraps up. A fantastic result for a very, very fast young Oscar Target. And great to see the Grove Junior program starting to find its feet.
Might not be too long before they give him a run in the GT car. So, they're doing tyres. So, fresh set of boots on the Grove Mercedes there. So, fuel's done. Now they can do tyres. And then they will send that car on its way once it's finished its mandatory pit stop time.
First and second to come through to complete another lap. Here's the sole car in the pits. 125 seconds of pit time from start to finish. So the well-drilled team at Grove Racing have done what they need to do. The sounds of rattle guns in pit lane. They bolt the left side on. There's the leader on the backside of the track heading towards turn number 4. Stokell still in tow. Gap is nearly 5 seconds and a further 16 back to Tim Miles. Go back to Stokell's career achievements. 2-time Nations Cup champion. Remember that series back in the day? He was a Lamborghini driver back in the early 2000s when that was what we know now as GT competition here. We had Ferraris and Nissan GTRs and the like, but he was a dominant driver in that series as well.
I think he certainly knows a thing or two about driving these GT cars as well.
Absolutely.
So the Grove entry, they've completed their final CPS. Brenton's away with some fresh rubber, filled the tank up, and be interesting to see what he can do behind the wheel of that Mercedes. Looks like, looking at the time sheets, Hackett, Ojeda, sorry, is the lead car that's done 3 stops. We'll just have to confirm whether they have actually done 3 CPSs or if one of them wasn't.
Well, we've got an hour and 11 minutes left to go, and Thomas Randall, why don't you take us through a lap with Stokell in the 181 OnlyFans entry?
So into turn 2, you can see the brakes glowing, the hardest brake zone on the track. It's a double apex, so you want to really try and maximise your exit throttle ramp. That big bump into turn 3, you have a small lift, settle the car over the bump, you're back in the throttle over the bridge down into turn 4, bomb the car into turn 4, brake point is just after the 50-metre board, hug it tight so you can get the car back across to the outside to make sure you get a really nice run through turn 5. You try and grab that apex curve at 5, hooks the car in, be careful of track limits, exit of 5. Now there's some bumps under braking into turn 6. That's where we go back to the older track surface. And then into Corporate Hill, blind into there, small dab on the brake, get the nose down, wash off a couple of Ks as fast as you came around Corporate Hill, and then about mid-track braking into turn 8. Turn in earlier than you think for a conventional hairpin because there's quite a lot of camber on the way into turn 8. That's still part of the old surface, and then the new surface starts halfway down the straight into turn 9. Very fast through turn 9, flat out, a lot of lateral load, braking over the curb at turn 10. And then this is a super important exit. You want to really just nail one throttle ramp down the straight because it is the longest straight on the track, and that's a lap. If we do include turn 1 here, this will be not even a dab on the brakes these days in a GT car. Pretty impressive. Massive bump in the middle that unsettles it. The Black Wolf Mercedes is in for a mandatory stop, driver change, tyres, fuel. Now, turn 2, I just want to touch on, James. It's actually a bit off camber when you go into there. About midway on the entry, you'll actually see the car sort of cross over the track where the camber drops away, and a lot of rear punishment actually occurs on the way into that corner, not just off it.
And this is one of those circuits, isn't it, that the exit of so many corners is so important for the entry to the next, because basically it is. So coming out of turn 2 into turn 3, you really need to be hitting that apex perfectly out of 2 and the camber throwing it off. Especially in cars like this, we've already seen the 66 entry of Ojeda running very, very low and being bumped around all over the place. It must throw you off as a driver just to be constantly hitting the deck. We obviously saw it in Formula 1, so with so many different issues with, I don't want to say porpoising too many times, but porpoising, because we heard a lot of it, didn't we, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, he's super loose off the back there for Talbot, so you'd say that car's probably not too far away from pitting because Elliott Shute, the sister car, is in the lane for their last stop as well. So I would say that it wouldn't be too far away until the number 1 of Liam Talbot would be considering pitting, and I guess that would then mean we're not far away from Stokell, Miles pitting as well. So the pit lane is getting a bit more livelier now with this last round of CPSs, with about 67 minutes to go in the race.
Certainly not as hectic as the first 2 rounds of pit stops earlier tonight. As Elliott Shute comes in to pit lane, Jackson Evans warming up for the final stint as we approach the 1 hour to go mark in Fanatec GT World Challenge, powered by AWS here tonight at Colour Spec Race Sydney. Got off to a bit of a tricky start with a couple of safety car periods early in the race, but certainly settled down. Away goes the number 8 Ferrari, while the number 1 car is on his way down to turn number 8. Liam Talbot still behind the wheel and extending that lead out to nearly 6 seconds. Arise Racing in their debut season have had 2 1-2s, if that makes sense. Lockouts, if you like, first and second in races across this season. That's a mammoth effort to do in their first year.
Absolutely. It means you've got a good crew, you've got a good driver lineup as well. Everyone's gelling. And, I mean, you're never going to get that every time you go out in Altis, so you've got to savour the good results when they come, because there's an old saying in motorsport, there's normally more lows than highs. So when you get a 1-2, it's pretty special as a team. It means you're obviously doing something right. So as we just see Talbot, Stokell going round again. An hour and 6 minutes to go now in the race, and there's a few cars that have completed all their stops, and one of them being this car right on screen, Brenton Grove, as he makes a move.
And that's for position
on Jackson Evans, I would say.
He's not messing around.
No.
This is the first flying lap for these two. They've just come out of the pits. So Grove trying to push forward in car number 4. With the cars ahead still yet to pit.
Grove was, I think he pitted 1 lap earlier than Jackson, so these hard Pirelli tyres, they take a little bit of time to get up to speed, and that's what Brenton's been able to capitalise on. And as you see, the front of the car still hard into the ground around turn 10 and 11. So, I mean, as the tyre pressures come up, I mean, like we said, he's only just pitted not too many laps ago, so once the pressures come up a bit, it won't be bottoming out as much, but certainly makes for a great spectacle.
Well, GT racing at its finest. If you're joining us on 7+, it is great to have your company for racing under lights. Always a special thing to do in motorsport, and what a track to do it here at Sydney Motorsport Park. With action still going on up and down the grid. And Arise Racing out of the west, a great showing in the east.
And we don't give them enough credit, I think, too, James, when you think about the logistics of that team, when majority, well, all the series is on this side of the country, that team having to pack up and drive back to its northern Perth base after each round, and not just for GT, but also Radical Cup, and thankfully they're running pretty much together in the speed series. But you're losing 2 to 3 days before an event and after an event in prep time to come here. Sure, they have truck drivers that get to do that part of the team, often fly in and work over, but it's a massive commitment to do that out of Western Australia. Any kind of sport is doing it from one side of the country. When you look at a flight time minimum of 4.5 to 5 hours to drive this way, it's 3 days if you were ambitious to stay in the seat for that long. Huge accomplishment, and to have victories like this in the first year, that is a massive reward.
Yeah, massive effort to get the crews to a predominantly eastern championship, being predominantly on the eastern seaboard of Australia, and their next round being not too far from where they are currently, about 3.5 hours west in Bathurst for the Bathurst International, which will be a great round. Awesome track, as everyone knows, especially for these GT3 cars, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not they keep the cars on this side of the country. But let's head down to the lane with Stubbsy and check in on what's happening down there.
Just keeping our eyes at the moment on Arise. Looks like they're setting up and close to a stop, so we'll get to that one when we can. But in the meantime here, Stephen Grove, talk us through, suited, booted, you're all dressed and ready to go out for the night. How you're situated? Everything's ticked off and you're right to go to the end.
Yeah, my time's done now. I mean, the first stint was quite hard. There's a lot of deg in this track, so you lose your rears pretty quick when the track was warm. And now it's the track's cool. The car, that second stint was quite quick. It was really, really good. Couldn't quite get miles.
Sorry, I think the leaders are coming in and we're about to get run over, so we've just been asked to move.
Yeah,
in terms of the tyres, as you're saying, and as you go towards the end here.
Yeah, the most important thing for Brent now is he needs to conserve the rears, because if you slide the car, you slide the rears, you'll overheat him. The more you overheat him at the end of the stint, he'll be no good. So to make sure we got a good run home, he'll just make sure he keeps the car straight, doesn't slide the car, and then we should have some good tyres to come home with.
And in terms of the strategy, I joined a little chat with your engineering group before. How do you think you placed against those around you?
Yeah, listen, it was quite hard in that stint because the rears went off quite quick. But for us, we're in a pretty good position. The others have still got a bit. Brent's time's pretty good and he's been pretty conservative. So I reckon we've got a good shot.
All right, there we go. You heard it here first. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers.
Well, plenty more to come in the Fanatec GT World Challenge powered by AWS Australia here at Colour Spec Race Sydney Motorsport Park. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll be back very soon. Great to see all of the action continuing to unfold here at Sydney Motorsport Park. As into frame comes our leader, both outright leader and leader in class. Liam Talbot being fairly dominant so far this evening.
He has been, and just touching on that interview that Stubbsy did with Stephen Grove about managing those tyres and especially managing the energy that you put through the rear tyres. What was interesting when we just looked at Brenton entering turn 6, as he turned in, you could see through the windscreen that he actually had a bit of oversteer on the way in. So whether or not that car is just struggling a little bit for rear balance at this point in the race. So he's going to have to work pretty hard to really contain those rears, because there still is an hour to go in this race. So a lot of laps to come if we stay green, and like Stephen touched on, you're going to want to have some rubber left towards the end of the race. And if there is a late race safety car and you have a sort of checkmated into staying out, you're going to want something to fight with. So this sort of part of the race here is just about trying to have as smooth inputs as you can in the car on the entry phase with your steering input, your throttle, your braking, all those sorts of things that we control as drivers, just to minimise the lateral load, the energy that's getting put through the tyres, because every little bit, you know, you give a bit and you take a bit, so you don't get anything for free with these tyres, and especially on a track as punishing as this for tyre degradation.
As we see the Sheargold Motorsport entry, Mike Sheargold into the pits, teamed up with Garth Walden. As you're already saying, tyres are a whole thing. They're changing that on the Mercedes AMG GT4.
Jackson Evans' tyres, you'd say, are sort of coming up to the temp now. He's just done a 28.7, 28.6, and it looks, I don't know if the timing has had a glitch, but it's saying that he's gotten past Brenton Rose, so whether or not that could be a timing glitch, it was a timing glitch. So, but yeah, Jackson's got the tyres up now. I think he looks a bit more comfortable. So, had a 4-second gap there between Brenton and Jackson, but Talbot's still out in front, 6.3 second gap.
Jackson, one of few drivers in this lineup who have 3 weekends in a row of driving. You get a break, but you get to be here calling with this.
Lucky me.
Welcome back to Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. We have reached the final third of this 3-hour endurance race here. The Colour Spec Race Sydney at Sydney Motorsport Park. It's great to have your company for all of today if you've been joining us for the Shannon Speed Series. And Stokel is really having to muscle this car around now as his tyres will be falling away.
Just bombed it in pretty hot into turn 6 there, and like I said before, you give a bit and you take a bit in terms of using up the tyres. So he's definitely outbraked himself into turn 6 on that lap and lost the rear on the way in, and then had a bit of a moment into turn 7 as well. So he's probably overheating those rear Pirelli tyres more than he'd like on this lap. And there's on screen the 888 of Peter Hackett. They are currently in P5, but they still have one more compulsory pit stop to complete.
Well, we have done a driver change in the commentary box as well. We've said goodbye to Matt Nolte, and it's hello again to Greg Rust.
Apparently, Race Control are investigating Matt Nolte's pit exit speed. Apparently, he was way too quick out of the commentary box. So we'll get to that later. Let's get back to this.
Is that a post-race investigation?
I think it is.
Have to be.
Okay.
Have to be.
Now, I do, as I return here, that's kind of done in a little bit of jest, right? In all seriousness, a lot of you have messaged who are watching. People at the track as well are asking. What I can tell you in relation to the drama that happened earlier in the race with the safety car, how it played out, I don't have a definitive answer for you on that yet. It is being looked into, and because we are into the final third of the race, as I understand it, some sort of potential statement or whatever will happen post-race once they have completed an investigation into what went wrong. So it is being looked into. That's as much as I can tell you at this stage. Okay?
Yeah, good to know. Thank you, Rusty. Eyes forward then for the rest of this race, as you said, the third to go. Just over 56.5 minutes. This is a lot of driving, and especially as you get later on into the day after already a few days in this car, having shootout earlier to do qualifying, and now for this big event for these drivers will be a big thing.
A lot's happened today, and Talbot and Miles in the lane. So our lead car and our position number 3 car have pitted for their final compulsory pit stop. So let's head down to Stubbsy, where I'm sure there's plenty of action in the lane. Stubbsy?
All eyes here. We've got all 2 decks of the grandstand here on the straight. Having a look at this one as the Ferrari comes in, hits his spot quite nicely. You can see Chaz there on the right-hand side. He's just assisting Liam, making sure that everything is disconnected as it should be before Liam climbs his way out. They get along very well, these two. Chaz, obviously there's a fair bit of height difference between the pair. And the seat insert comes out now. I'm not sure if you can pick that up in the shot, but that has been dropped on the ground. And Chaz has come in. So at the moment, obviously you can only have a certain amount of people working on the car while the fuel is going in. So the fuel is still attached and happening. See, there's the move. So the fuel disconnects, that rig is disconnected, and the others can step in and go to work on the tyres. So we're having down this left-hand side. They are not brand new tyres. By the looks of it, they've at least been roaded. There's no sheen on those babies. And they've done that quite nicely. So now the car is dropped, and this is the hardest part as a racing car driver. You sit and you wait. I'm sure Tom can relate to that. There is nothing worse in GT racing than your compulsory pit stop, and you want to drive and you see cars going past you and you know that every second counts in a GT race. And he's sitting there, so just cleaning the windscreen, making sure that any of those moths that we've picked up are clear, and he's got his vision and away we can go. It's been told to move, and Chaz now, the final countdown, final few seconds, car control at the front. He's about ready to launch. You watch him light up these rears. And away he goes.
Stubbsy, 54 minutes remaining. Might be worth, if you can, just double-checking with, say, an Adam DeBore or some of the team, just on what this less than, just under, final hour will bring, because that ticks the box as far as the compulsory stops are concerned and the way in which they have to play out. But will they need a little splash for fuel between now and the end, etc.? What might they do with 53 minutes, or just under 54 minutes remaining? Here's your race leader, Paul Stokel from Jada, who we spoke to a little earlier. Peter Hackett now at the wheel of the 888 machine. Good recovery from that team to be in third place. We've just seen the stop for Mostert before. The Leach Miles entry 2 spots down at the moment in position number 7.
Just following Stokel on screen here, so one more compulsory pit stop to go for this car, and I would say that it's coming in the lane right now as well.
Yep. Fires the OnlyFans Audi in, pulls it up nicely before the line where you've got to be at the mandated speed limit in the pit lane for safety. Back we go.
They're on for their best result so far this year. The 181 entry compared to Chaz and Liam, who have had 2 wins so far this year, both at Phillip Island, one at the beginning of the year, the second, the GT Festival, a handful of second places as well. So really well on this 181 Melbourne Performance Centre entry for a good turnaround of their fortunes for 2024.
Screen now the 66 Mercedes of Jada, who will essentially take the lead. Whether or not this car, we'll just have to confirm if it's done. It does say it's pitted 3 times, just not sure if one of them is a compulsory pit stop, but if so, then they're obviously looking pretty good. But yeah, I feel like that car may have to do another pit stop, but we'll have to just see what happens here between Stokel, the Mostert car, and the Brenton Grove Audi as well.
Renee Gracie hopping in the Audi, final stint. And again, this will be a great result for them. They're on it so far. Also, anything can happen. This is motorsport after all. We are racing under lights. Now comes the wait for Gracie. She prepares to get back out on track. Jada leads in the 66 AMG. And the picture-in-picture, if you're watching along on 7 Plus, you'll see Renee lining up the rears. She heads back out on track.
This is effectively the race lead here, and on cold tyres, it is going to be Chaz going right around the outside of the 181 of Renee Gracie. So Chaz with the, I believe, the effective race lead over Renee Gracie, and then we have Brenton Grove in behind them as well, followed by Jackson Evans, and then Brendan Leach, who is actually on a bit of a flyer at the moment. He's purple to the middle sector, Brendan Leach, so interested to see what lap time this will produce when he crosses the line. It's a new fastest lap of the race, a 27.55, 1/10 off the lap record, which was actually set last year by Maximilian Hoffer.
That is unbelievable. What are we? We're 50 minutes remaining in this race, and the Kiwis lit up the timing monitor. First 27 that we've seen, and as Tom's just detailed, they're ultra close to lap record pace.
And knowing Brendan, he's going to want more, I reckon. So there goes down the inside the Mossad car on the Mercedes of
the Black Wolf entry.
That be Ben Schutz.
Correct.
So Mossad we'll just see what it is when he crosses the line, but he's going to have a nice, healthy lead here, I'd say. So Brendan Leach or Brenton Grove will know that there are 49 minutes left in the race. If there's no safety cars, well, this is it to the end. So if you want to try and win it, it's either push hard to try and make up time, or hope that Chaz blows the rear tyres off it and comes back to it.
Just being told 66 of Ojeda has done all of their stops. So potentially a different conversation to be had. But Thomas, one of the things that I wanted to ask you, as we're following Chaz around this track, very, very busy last weekend for him, as it was for you, and so will next weekend be. How does this sit from a driver's point of view in the Supercars Championship for him doing a 3-hour endurance race in a weekend between 2 other endurance races? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
Chaz?
Yeah.
Oh, certainly be a good thing. The more laps, the better. And yes, it's not a V8 supercar, but
races are races. They love it, don't they?
The more laps you can do, the better. So, I mean, he's got a great program here. He's working with an engineer in Adam DeBore that he's worked with for, I mean, apart from this year, pretty much his whole full-time supercars career. Yeah. So they have such a great relationship. Adam stepped back from full-time supercars engineering and was engineering a Super 2 program with the Morses, which that's sort of all finished up prior to the last round at Bathurst.
This has taken up a lot of his time, and he enjoys it in a good way.
Absolutely, you know, and Chaz will be loving it out there. I mean, who wouldn't want to drive a brand new, Ferrari GT3 car? I mean, these are the current spec that race in the DTM Championship as well. They're run by Emil Frey Racing in the DTM, and it's just more racing miles around a track. I mean, this will be the first round of the Supercars Championship next year. I would assume probably a race under lights as well. So, more mileage the better. And it wasn't that long ago that Chaz and I were racing each other here at the Supercar round under lights too.
Supercars announced at Mount Panorama Bathurst. They're obviously a proud broadcast partner of the 7 network here. They announced a pretty significant change to the championship next year, the way that there'll be an endurance component and almost a bit of a NASCAR flavour. I know different people have had a say on that. Plenty of us kind of feel like you're mad not to change it up, you're mad not to have a go, and there's some pros in that, maybe some tuning along the way, but really, applaud them for having a crack, trying something new.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that, Rusty. And I mean, as a society, we don't like change.
Yep.
And there was always going to be conjecture, and there was always going to be arms going up in the air about, oh, what are you doing with this? It's a big change for the sport. And hey, it's not locked in for 2026. I think it's actually really cool. Once it was sort of explained to us drivers about how it's going to work, the system in place, the points, all that sort of stuff, it was like, you know what? Good on you for having a crack.
Yes.
And I think it's great from a entertainment point of view that it's going to go down the wire. And obviously there's pros and cons to it. If you're the championship leader and you've been leading by, let's say, 300 points, and it goes down to the top 4 and you have an issue, and that's it. But you look at it from another point of view, Rusty, and you might have had a torrid start to the year, DNFs left, right and centre, but you've got in the 10.
Yes.
You're in the finals. You've got a quick car, and you could make something happen. It's kind of like AFL. You could win every game of the year, but you lose the grand final.
Yes.
And that's just the way it is.
And I'm a believer, rightly or wrongly, that kind of trying to take that framework and look back on how 2019 might have played out or whatever is very difficult to do, because as a driver, as a team, and potentially as the ultimate champion, you might have played that year very differently if these were the rules. So you can't really apply that.
No, and there's definitely races, well, especially if you're in championship contention, where you might not afford to make a move because you know that you need the points, and points mean prizes in a championship. However, in this new format, it's going to be a different story. You might go for that move because you need to. And just back to the racing here at hand, Rusty. Sorry to go off the finals stuff. It's just been confirmed that 66 Mercedes has actually completed all its compulsory pit stops. So, yeah, it's quite interesting because they're about 54 seconds up the road on Hackett. So I'm just trying to understand this in that was one of the cars that went past the safety car, which from the front-on shot, it was yellow lights. However, it could have been green from the back of the safety car. So have they nailed this in a weird way that technically they probably shouldn't have? And, you know, they've essentially looking pretty good here. I mean, there's 44 minutes to go, and the timing is showing that they're, you know, nearly a minute up the road. If we take out Hackett, we know that car's got to pit again. But effectively, yeah, they're a minute up the road. So I find that very interesting.
There'll be a discussion, no doubt, about this. And as we said before, the safety car procedure early on is going to be investigated. So we'll update you on that in our coverage tomorrow morning when we are back on air from 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also stay up to date, incidentally, on the official website, gtworldchallengeaustralia.com. Just search for that. It's got all the information you need. And we spoke to Ben McMillan on the grid, the chief, the boss, from the Australian SRO arm, and they've announced their calendar. Very exciting news for them for 2025 today, and he spoke with Chris Stubbs about it on the grid. Now, that looked like, was that the Grove car making its way into the lane? In fact, it's the Hackett and the Grove entries that have come into the lane. So a bit more pit stop activity for our 5th and 6th place in the order at that stage competitors. Leach goes back up to 5th. Here we go. Pit activity to the bottom right of your screen. Red Hot Courier crew, the 888 team, go to work.
That'll be Fraser jumping in the car. I'm pretty sure Hackett just waved to us on camera. So, hello, Mr. Hackett. I hope you've had an enjoyable evening behind the wheel of that Mercedes AMG.
He's been racing up in Asia again in the more recent time, and he is busy with the Mercedes and AMG program that he has all around the country and beyond when it comes to showcasing new models. Here we go. Drama.
Looked like the Schultz car. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
They might have just been letting those cars through.
Yeah,
sorry to get you excited there. Just wanted to note that Fraser car just put on green tyres or brand new tyres, so that'll be good to the end. But yeah, sorry to catch you off guard there. I thought Schultz might have had a problem, but he's just let the leaders through.
Schultz leading the AM class, so still very much in it.
So yeah, just to clarify, the timing shows the Ojeda car 63 seconds ahead of Chaz Mostert, which, yeah, if it runs green, that's a very hard task for Mostert, trying to ask him to find 2 seconds a lap, maybe? So yeah, I feel like something's occurred there under that safety car, and yeah, we'll have to get some clarification on that post-race. So yeah, like you said earlier, Rusty, that SRO chat has been lighting up, and I think there'll be a bit of a, what's the term? A bit of a please explain after this one.
I don't think I've got enough grey matter to cope with, to be honest with you, Thomas. I don't have much to begin with. So, anyway.
I guess what I don't understand is that, you know, those cars, I feel, well, I don't feel like the Fraser car did anything wrong. They essentially were a lap ahead. And then they've had that lap taken off them because of a timing issue, but technically, I guess they didn't do anything wrong. So this is where it all gets
the ice cream headache kicks in.
Yes, and we know you already had a bit of a headache. Do you need some more Panadols?
I'm all good. Thank you, mate. I'm powering through, and we've got 40 minutes of racing to come, and who knows what will play out in that final period. So Ojeda from Mostert, Jackson Evans, both of the Arise Racing Ferraris, 2 and 3. Renee Gracie sits in position 4 with Brendan Leach just just under 10 seconds now behind in the chase there. Car 7 is banking some pretty reasonable laps at the moment relative to her Audi car 181.
Reggie Grove back in the lane. Sorry, that's interesting. Have they got it looks like they might have an issue on that right rear tyre. Yeah. So we'll have to see if our good friend and our croissant lover, you know, bonjour, Stubbsy down in the pit lane. Merci beaucoup, Stubbsy. Do you reckon he can hear us, or do we need to speak?
Why am I picturing Jean Girard having a coffee at the moment, or something along those lines? So crazy.
We better get down to Stubbsy. Bonjour, Stubbsy.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Chris, j'habite Australie. Très bien, that's about all I've got. Clearly there's a significant problem in the right rear here. They're reaching right over into the back here, playing with the suspension there. I can see it's right over in the back. So, yeah, this is curtains, you would think, in terms of their race for the day. And they were quite happy earlier, weren't they? Stephen was confident.
The thing for me, Stubbsy, is remember in the early part of that race some of the wild stuff over the curbing up toward turn 11. Remember the sparks were really kicking up, and he was chasing, I think, the Dale ITM Audi, and it was pretty feisty between those guys at that stage.
Yeah.
And the radio issue had kicked in, and we wondered, so is this perhaps related to that? It's on the outside of that car where you would perhaps make contact with some of that curbing there.
So, yeah, we did see him go off.
Yeah, and being pushed away, as you can see.
Yep. Thanks, Stubbsy.
What a shame. What an absolute shame for that car. They were running in, fourth position. So, yeah, it's disappointing for that team. It's not exactly Travion, as Stubbsy called it.
We've lost it here. Apologies, folks.
Do you blame us?
You're not tuning into Tour de France. Yeah. French cooking with Rusty and Randall.
So, but blueberry muffin eating with Stubbsy. I wonder if he's grabbed another muffin while we've been up here.
Probably. Right.
A couple of other yarns out of this. The Walden car, which started on the front row of the grid back in 8th at the moment. They've had an up and down evening, haven't they? So it does... You know, there was a moment there where in the early part of the race, I think when Mike started for him, it just didn't look comfortable for them, did it? And I thought they might have been in perhaps a bit of a better scenario by this point in the race.
They seem happier now, and they're second in class. Garth's in the car. They've done a 28.5, which is pretty speedy for those boys. And, you know, like I said, second in class, bit further up. Well, considering how that first few laps looked, was obviously good for them. But Fraser's just passed Ben Schutz for P6 outright, and he's about a lap behind P5. So I'd say they're looking pretty safe there for P6 overall. But yeah, Jaden Ojeda out front by an insane margin of 58 seconds. And Jackson Evans is third, about 24 seconds behind Mostert. So the two Ferraris at 2 and 3, Renee Gracie fourth, Brendan Leach.
That's down to 4.2 now.
Correct.
Just 4.2 seconds between Leach and Gracie. So that's worth watching that. The fight for fourth. Here's our race leader. 57 seconds in the pocket to the good. I spoke to him early in the race weekend on Thursday at the Focus Driver Performance Centre there upstairs at Sydney Motorsport Park. He was in there and he'd enjoyed his weekend at Mount Panorama, and in between time had literally left Bathurst, gone I think to Malaysia for some work, and then returned in time, just in time for Sydney Motorsport Park there on Thursday. He's been busy.
Keeping an eye on Renee Gracie. 181 OnlyFans Audi entry. And she's putting in some very, very good lap times and some solid efforts, as I mentioned earlier, in terms of results for this car this year.
Just keep an eye on the background there, James. It's 2.4 now, so Leach is closing at a rapid rate. And I'll tell you who's lighting up the timing monitor too. That's Declan Fraser, 1:27.47. It's not quite a match of the quickest lap of the race so far for Leach, but Fraser's in the 27s, and he's been the best in the middle part of the lap of anyone we've seen so far.
Yeah, and he's only, well, half a tenth away from being that lap record, and we know how close Brendan Leach got to it a few laps ago with his 27.43, and Fraser's not giving up. He's just gone green in the first sector. Still a couple of tenths away from Leach in that first sector. There's about 3 tenths to find in that first sector from the Audi, but the second sector is where that Mercedes and Fraser combination is super strong. So, yeah, he's not too far away from, well, potentially vying for the lap record. So we'll keep an eye on that as the gap now, Brendan Leach to Rene Gracie's 1.5 seconds. So here we go. We're looking at the 888 of Fraser. He's just gone purple in the middle sector again. 103.1 to the second sector. And let's just follow this because he's got a little bit of a toe here as well. Well, sorry, that's Brendan Leach. But let's see if Fraser can get this done. He's about to cross the line now, and Rusty, 3/100ths of a second away. So close.
So let's just keep a watch on this. It's less than a second. You can watch that for yourselves on the screen here. Let's get an update from Chris.
Just to finish off on Brenton Grove, he's out of that car. It turns out it was a candle pin in the front right was the problem. So going from full neg, full positive. So that was why it wasn't tracking straight. He thought it was in the rear, but no, that was the problem. And he is out of the car, and that's done.
Change of spots there, so Leach is through. What an amazing couple of weekends he's had on the road. Talked about his efforts overseas. Pole and 2 race wins in the Lamborghini. Comes back to Sydney Motorsport Park. Banking some quick laps here. Lights flashing from Fraser. Wants to get this done. Does not want to lose sight of the Dale ITM Audi up the road.
I think, you know, Renee will just let him go because he's technically a lap down on these cars, so Renee will just let him go, and she's actually just put the indicator on. So yeah, just letting him go through. No pressure there, no reason to battle for that, and Fraser will just get on his merry way. And you know, unfortunately for them, that yeah, obviously that puncture hurt, and then the safety car stuff, which we've discussed. So at the moment, yeah, Ojeda is our leader, and you'd say if nothing happens, it would be pretty tough for them to, yeah, lose this one. Mossad and Evans second and third, and then Leach in fourth, a further 10 seconds back. Now, it'd be interesting to see if Leach can make an impact on Evans, because it's a 10-second gap, but we know how quick Leach has been in that Dale ITM Audi.
Well, you said it. Just over 31 minutes remaining in this race. So many things can yet to happen.
She's still got the indicator on. Maybe we should...
it's not really something you think about turning off.
No, the amount of times I've got to say I've left the indicator on after putting it on and forgetting to turn it off. You might go, oh, yep, yeah, no worries, yep. And then about a few laps later you go, oh, that's still on.
Are you that guy at the roundabout, that guy up the road?
I'm that guy. Oui.
That's you. That's you.
Yeah.
Always surprising when you see a Ford Castrol Mustang at a roundabout. What on earth am I looking at here?
You're looking at beauty. This is what you're looking at.
Very well done. Very well done.
Just looking at that Declan Fraser car. That last lap. Purple again in the middle sector. He really likes that middle sector, Rusty. Another 27.4 for the 888 Mercedes. Whether or not he can get that lap record, that'd be pretty cool. And he's just gone green in the first sector. Still a bit of time to find in that first sector compared to the Audi. However, you would say the Audi and the Mercedes have their strengths. So it looks like Fraser, if he can just finish this lap, he's right on the sides of Leach, so hopefully he doesn't get any aero wash on this lap, but be pretty interested to see if Fraser could, you know, knock this lap record off. He's so close to doing it.
Can we just stop and appreciate these two young blokes for a moment here, right? Firstly, to Declan Fraser, you know, with with Triple Eight in the Super Chick Auto Wildcard a year or so ago, but with Brad Jones Racing at the Mountain, has the most frightening news privately in relation to the house burning down and losing all kinds of very valuable personal assets, manages to compartmentalise that to do the 1,000, driving absolutely out of his skin here at the moment. And then just up the road ahead of him here, Brendan Leach raced the Lamborghini Super Trofeo to some success in Barcelona. A week or two prior to that was at Indianapolis in a Porsche, and here he is at Sydney Motorsport Park. A couple of cool stories from some young racers there.
Yeah, indeed, and I just can't imagine what Declan and, well, mainly Declan, but Declan and his family have been through in the last week. You know, I mean, he found out the news literally, was it 10 minutes or something ridiculous before he had to, you know, start. Well, he didn't start the Bathurst 1000 race himself, but to have that on your conscience when you've got to race a supercar in the 1000 and then following this week, and we heard from him on the grid, and he said he hasn't had a chance to go home. I mean, where does he go?
Exactly. What does it really look like when he eventually gets there, and all those sorts of things? Yeah.
So I feel for him, but in the same sense, Rusty, I actually think that this is the best thing for him, to be in the car racing. He's getting his mind off it, and off of, you know, everything that's happened during the week.
Just give him an escape from it for a while. Yeah.
He's just getting in the car, doing exactly what he loves to do. And on that note, Brendan's actually just released Fraser.
Because he can.
Because he can, yeah, and letting Fraser just get on with it, with his job. But yeah, I think the best thing for Declan is to be in that seat, to be driving, take his mind off of what's happening, and deal with that, you know, when, you know, I'd say next week, but when the time comes and when he's up to the task.
Wish him well with that. It's very hard to know what to say in that sort of scenario, because many of us haven't been confronted with it, so as best he can deal with it. So it's 52 seconds. The margin between this car at the moment with Jayden Ojeda at the wheel. Chas Mostert is lighting up the timing monitor to an extent. Personal best through Sector 1 in that Ferrari. But it's with under half an hour to go now. It's sizable chunks that he needs out of that advantage.
And this is your race leader, actually. Declan, I would say if I was Ojeda, I would be letting Declan through. He's actually 2 laps down. So there's no need for Ojeda to have to worry about. And for some reason, Ojeda just got given the blue flags, but well, hopefully not Ojeda. But yeah, I would just be letting Declan through. And even Brendan Leach for that matter, because Ojeda can just cruise home at the moment.
I don't know what happened, unfortunately, to the Grove Racing entry, and if it just was impacted by some of that curb use early on in the race, who knows? But no doubt Chris is on to that. Ojeda still holds the position here. Now I think Declan will get down the inside, clears it. Here's Leach. Goodness me.
I'm sure Leach would have wished that was the battle for the lead as well. So, yeah, Ojeda could just be cruising, as I said, and no risk.
No point, no risk.
No at all. He's 49. Yeah, well, we've touched on that. Massive lead to Chas Mostert, 49. Second gap with 26 minutes to go. So, but yeah, Leach is about 8 seconds behind Evans at the moment. So for Leach, it would be to try and see if he can get onto the back of Jackson in that time and you know, grab a podium, because I think for Miles and Leach, that would be a great way to finish off the Enduro.
Definitely.
Well, 25 minutes remaining in what is a total 3-hour race will be. And plenty of dramas unfolded. Coach Jada from Mostert. Evans, we're already speaking about the pace. Declan Fraser, the Triple Eight entry. Some other stories up and down the grid as well. Peroni, the #1 car as well. Young man from Tasmania. He had some good times in Formula 3 overseas, and fantastic to see the Tasmanian branding on the world stage. Always a great thing to see young Australians doing well, and has found himself a path back into GT racing in this country.
Just following the #1 of Chaz Mostert. He'll have DeBore in the radio. They might be chatting about what's for dinner, I'd say.
46 seconds. He's been able to make a little bit of ground with the traffic and things like that have maybe just impacted Ojeda with Fraser and Leach and co there, but it's down to 46 seconds now, and Chaz keeps doing a pretty reasonable job in this late part of the race and lighting up the monitor in some key places. Quick on a personal basis through the final sector there, and I think he did a similar thing through the middle part of the lap before too. So Ferrari at the back end of this race looks pretty sharp, doesn't it? Despite that contact early on with Brendan Leach.
It does, yeah, but the question mark is how much is Ojeda pushing the car, you know?
Correct.
So he'd be told, hey mate, there's no reason to push, conserve tyres, all those sorts of things. So I guess if there is a safety car, he'll have something to play with. So, which there is every chance that could happen. But Chaz, knowing Chaz, he'll be going full beans right now. He's just said his fastest first sector of the race, and that's Declan going down the inside of the 44 of Perez, I believe, into turn 1. So just letting him through. Brendan Leach following in very closely behind, and we did see Brendan letting Declan through, and now it appears maybe Brendan wants to be let back pass through on Declan. They're racing each other, and they're a lap apart.
Well,
so.
you put a caveat on it at the end there a moment ago, right? Like, it's a 3-hour race. We're final 20 minutes. I wouldn't necessarily expect it from the likes of Fraser and Brendan here, but it can be a stretch for some of the, you know, call it quote unquote the gentleman races, right?
Yeah.
So if there was to be a safety car, potentially it's in this phase of the race.
Correct. And just touching on gentleman races, well, not so gentlemanly, but Garth Walden has just passed Ben Schutz for the lead. So, yeah, that's a really tight battle, actually. It's half a second between Walden and Schutz. So
there's a positive after the day that we've spoken about for Mike and for Garth Walden. Nice pickup. Well done.
Absolutely. So, yeah, they'd be pretty happy if they can hang on to that. So they are just going through turn 5, approaching turn 6. And he's managed to make that pass on Ben Schutz. So that's great for the 45 and the whole Garth Walden team there. And yeah, just the gap now is down to 43 seconds between Mostert and Ojeda. Now, the other question mark here, something I've been thinking about, is whether or not Ojeda has to fuel save. Now, this may not be the case at all, just something that I've been a little just noted, whether or not there's a potential there. But Ojeda's last lap was a 1:30.7, and we'll keep you updated on what Chaz does when he crosses the line, as he's just exiting the last corner now. So Chaz coming across the line, and he's done a 28.7, so that gap's now 42 seconds. So yeah, it's gone from a massive 43-second to a very small 42-second gap.
Hey, anything can happen, Thomas Randall.
Correct.
And as you've quite rightly said already, this phase of the race, some mistakes might be made, momentary lapse of judgment, that's all it takes.
And you know what, just quickly, sometimes the biggest mistakes are made when you're actually not pushing, because you're not thinking as clearly, like you're just taking your mind a little bit off the ball, you're just cruising back a little bit, and that's when some mistakes can happen. Now let's head down to the lane with our good friend and colleague, Chris Stubbs.
Thank you, Thomas. Paul Luchetti is alongside me, Paul. It's getting close to the end of the race. How are the nerves, first of all?
Yeah, they're building, of course. So it's my first endurance event. So we had to use a bit of strategy to sort of keep us in the game. Boys are confident he can bring it home. So we'll just have to wait and see.
Now, Thomas Randall is part of our commentary team here on 7+, and he's a little bit perplexed, and I think it's fair to say that some of us are too. How did you guys pull this off, to have such a lead, the strategy of this team behind us here? How have you done it?
So, well, Matt, the brains of the organisation, all these three are part of the garage. We used the safety car, so we came in, and then Jaden went in, got one stint out of the road, a short one, then I quickly hopped back in, and we were fortunate enough to have another safety car, and I built on that, and I just stayed out for my whole time, and the stops were done, and here we are.
Amazing. Simple as. See, Tom, it's not that hard to work out at all, is it? all the best. Obviously, anything can happen. There's still a few laps to go, but all the best, and hopefully we'll see you at the end.
Yeah, cheers. Thank you.
Yeah, well done to them. I mean, you know, if it all plays out, pretty special moment for them. Here comes, I think that's
Declan Fraser.
Into the lane. So
maybe a top-up or another set of tyres. They did put a brand new set of tyres on in that last stint, so I did not expect to see Declan coming into the lane. So we'll have to see what's happening with that car, because he was trucking along very well there, you know, setting in some really fast times. Whether they just, I mean, they're 2 laps down, I'm not quite sure. They won't lose a position in terms of a Pro-Am position, but here we go. They've pitted, and looks like they're actually retiring the car. They're putting the stands under the car, as that we call it, the chickens. They're putting them under the car, and it appears that they're going to be putting that in the garage, Rusty.
what a shame here. All that pace. So critically, the red hot Couriers, the 888 entry, being wheeled into the garage. If you told us before the start of this race that you think that would maybe happen with 15 minutes or so just over remaining, you wouldn't have tipped that. Let's go to Chris.
So the same problem here for the Fraser and Hackett 888 entry as it was for the Groves, a camber pin. So that's why the car was not tracking as it should have been. And they came in and had a look, and straight away they were onto it.
Do we have a theory, Chris, on maybe why? I don't know if any of the engineering group have a thought on what's caused that.
They went, sorry mate, the brains trust have come straight together, because the Grove guys they knew that there was a similar problem, so they're just having that chat now to try and work out. They're looking at the little bits that have come out, the bolt itself that's come out, the pin, just to see what's happening and the wear and tear and why.
Brutal. Just over 15 minutes to go, and that happens.
Yeah, that's highly unusual for these GT3 cars. I mean, they're built to last 24-hour Nürburgring races, 24-hour Spa races. I mean, they are endurance cars. So for potentially 2 Mercedes to have the same issue is highly unusual. And I mean, yes, we call it a 3-hour endurance race, but really 3 hours in the grand scheme of things for what these cars are capable of doing is not a lot if we put it into that perspective. And yeah, that's potentially something that Mercedes will have to look at if it's a manufacturing issue or a engineering issue. I mean, unusual that 2 have had the same issue.
To clarify, right rear on both. Is that right? I'm trying to remember where it was for the Groves, and we're virtually a constant left-hand circuit here, aren't we? So
the Grove car had the right rear wheel off it. They seem to be looking at that. However, then Stubbsy, our good friend and gun pit reporter, Chris Stubbs, said it was the right front. And looking at the 888 car, it looked like they were looking at the right front as well. So yeah, highly unusual, and I'm sure that we'll get to the bottom of that.
Well, since we've been looking the camber pins. Chaz Mostert's managed to pull this gap down now to 35 seconds. Jaden Ojeda. And with 15.5 minutes to run.
Leach is down to 4.7 as well, James, versus Jackson Evans. He is chasing a third-place finish, is he? So just need to keep a little watch on the Dale ITM entry. Can he catch the second of the Arise Racing entries? They've got it back in action here.
Looks like they've appeared to fix whatever issue it is, and they're going to send it on its merry way. So not in too much of it. Just trying to get the air jack system working. Get the, as they call it, the chickens from under the car, and get that thing dropped onto the deck and back out on the track. So that's such a shame, though, for that Mercedes. And he's actually just dropped behind Alex Peroni now, so we know the Peroni car's a few laps down, but he's unlapped himself from the Triple 8 car. So just looking at the timing here, Rusty, that gap now 4.2 seconds. So the last lap around it was 4.7. So with about 14 minutes to go, say maybe 8 laps remaining, 8 or 9 laps. I'm going to say 8 laps. It'll be tough, but Brendan won't give up.
Bodywork. Cops are hiding here, doesn't it, as the car moves around in the latter part of this race.
Mostert's got that gap down to 32 seconds now. And that was a minute. Oh. Remember, that gap was a minute.
He's flying.
So, yeah, Ojeda is just... I mean, Ojeda knows how to be fast in these cars, so I would say he's just taking it easy. When your engineer tells you you've got 32 seconds to the car behind and you're 13 minutes to go, I think you no risks at all.
But it looks like he's still pushing really, really hard, doesn't it? Just the way the car's sort of squirming in entry, he's trying to really ride the edge.
Oh, for Mostert? For sure. For Ojeda, probably not.
No,
but for Mostert, absolutely, yeah. Mostert won't be giving up. We know what he's like. He's relentless. There's a reason that he's a gun, you know, and he's got nothing to lose. He's got 41 seconds to the car behind and 31 seconds to the car in front, so he may as well make use of this Pirelli rubber in that beautiful Ferrari and see if he can get the gap further down. But yeah, 30 minutes to go. He's going to need a miracle, I'd say, Mr. Chaz Mostert.
Might be able to close the gap down to somewhere around the 17 or 18 seconds as we come towards the checkered flag. We'll see what he does.
Be interested to follow this gap between Evans and Leach, because it's now gone down to 3.7 seconds. And there's still, 12.5 minutes to go. So I think you were spot on there, Rusty, that this battle for the last spot on the podium really could come down to the wire, because Leach is still putting in some fast lap times. He's nearly half a second faster than Jackson in the first sector alone.
There are moments, I reckon, where the radio message has obviously gone out to Jackson to respond here. So he is making a gain, but I sense now Evans is turning up the response. So 12 minutes to go. Can Leach and Tim Miles score that final overall podium spot here at Colour Spec Race Sydney, the main event on Saturday night here? Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, 3-hour enduro as a part of their Endurance Championship. There's that currently third place car, second of the Arise Racing Ferraris, car number 8, Jackson Evans at the wheel of that machine. Also drives for Brad Jones Racing. Saw a shot of his stablemate, his teammate in Andre Heimgartner floating around there before too, assisting with some of the Radical competitors. Now there you go. So that shows you, as they go through 4, the real-time gap. What is it now? 3.4 seconds. Leach to Evans. The two Kiwis going at it for the final spot on the podium with 11 minutes to go.
And last time out of the GT Festival, Rusty, Evans and Shute won on the Sunday. So they've got form. Of course, the sibling car of Chaz and Liam won on the Saturday. So the Ferrari versus Audi here for the last step. 5 manufacturers in this race.
So Leach is able to match, Evans is able to match Leach in the middle sector, but it's the first sector, and we'll just see what this last sector is, but it's the first sector where Leach finds all his time. He finds nearly, well, 4 to 5 tenths of a second alone in that first sector, and Leach does have the fastest first sector of the race, so he's pretty speedy in that first part of the track. So whether that's an Audi thing or it's Brendan just gels with that part of the track, but you know, that gap's down to basically 3 seconds.
Let's get an update from the lane, Chris.
Rusty, further to your point earlier about these cambers and the problems that we're having these failures across these two Mercs Groves and 888. So these are the pins here going into the shim. Now, both cars had contact front right, so that was what caused the problem to start with. But this track in particular, it's quite hard on the cars, as we've detailed. So what's happened is the continued pressure of hitting potentially turns 3 or 4, we think. You'll see that there's a slight twist, slight bend in them. That's all it's kind of taken for the shim then to come loose and fall off. And therein lies the problem. Now, I'm very much on my apprenticeship when it comes to talking tech, but Tommy Randall may be able to explain a little bit further to that. But you were right, it is something to do with the forces from the track and riding over the curbs here, but contact is what initiated that for both cars.
Well done, mate.
Yeah, thanks Stubbsy. And just on that, the way that you can change the camber with the shims, so those bolts, if you like, or pins, they go into the top of the upright, and then you have those camber shims and essentially shim it out, so you're changing the angle of the tyre. If you're looking at the car front on, and I mean, you see on the road some people who like to put a bit of camber on their tyres and a bit of an angle, correct. And when you shim it, the more shims you put in between the upright and I guess the upper control arm, the more shims, the less camber. So you're stacking it, and then the least amount of shims, the more camber. So if you've got issues with those pins, and the way those shims are designed, they're designed to be easily accessible. So they essentially are like a bit of a U shape where they go over the pins, so they can just be dropped in, tightened up, and then they clamped up, they can't come out. That's the theory, and you rarely see this problem, but yeah, with a bit of contact, you can have those, well, that can happen. The shims pop out, and then all of a sudden you've got this your upright that's actually moving under load, and hence why the car's being brought in. So, yeah, not ideal, but you'd much rather that than the alternative of something else happening further on down the track.
To come back to your point, though, interesting this is happening at a 3-hour at Sydney Motorsport Park versus a 12-hour or more at some of the legendary venues that the sport internationally goes to.
Correct. And as Stubbsy said, if there was contact there, then it's hard to say that it's an engineering issue. I mean, these cars, like I said, and like you just said, they do 24-hour races, and I mean, I didn't have that issue at the 12-hour this year, and I mean, the other cars seem to be okay. So if it's due to contact, it's hard to really blame anything else. All it may take is whether it's a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact on the wrong angle. Sometimes it is just that wrong angle when you're loaded up, and being the right-hand front as well, that is the heaviest loaded corner on the car at this track. So a combination of those things, but I mean, the best thing to do is bring the car in and check it out, and that's that. But I guess what's interesting is that the Brendan Grove car hasn't been able to get back out. So whether that has actually done maybe more damage within the upright, and you know, it could have sheared or maybe stripped the thread in the upright, I'm not quite sure. But obviously for the other Mercedes of Fraser, they've been able to get that car back out.
Quickly, you may not be able to say yet, but will you do Maguire's Bathurst 12-hour next year?
I'm planning to at this stage. Yeah, hopefully do it again. I had a blast this year with Cam Waters and Craig Lowndes and Scotty Taylor and the whole SDM and Ash Seawood crew. It was my first 12-hour, and I got to start it, which was an experience. But I'd love to do it again. So hopefully we can do it again and you know, take it to some of the best in the world.
Lads, while we've been talking about this, the gap between Ojeda and Mossad is now 19 seconds. Whilst we've been talking about the camber pins, Chaz has found 7.6 seconds over the last couple of laps, which is incredible speed for him. And I said maybe 18 towards the checkered flag, 18 seconds. There's still 5 minutes and 45 seconds to run. And the gap now down to 18.4. So can we see Chaz Mostert right down to the wire, taking it to Ojeda?
1.2, James, between Leach and Evans. That's the one to keep an eye on. The fight for third place. Couple of Kiwis, there they are, going at it. Can Tim Miles and Brendan Leach, it seems like he could almost throw a fishing line and hook on the back of the Ferrari and catch him. It looks that close now. Is a podium in the offing for the Dale ITM Audi, or can Leach and Elliott Shute hold on here for Arise Racing?
I'm sure that they would love to have a double podium finish here, but at this point of the race, 4 minutes to go, this is when you are, mentally fatiguing the most, and you're seeing those bright headlights on that Audi of Brendan Leach behind you. So for Jackson, he would wish that this is the last lap of the race. There's going to be at least another, I'd say, 3 laps to go after this one, because it's time plus a lap, and that gap now is going to be, as they cross the line, probably 1.8 tenths. There you go, 8 tenths of a second. So, but there's an old saying, boys, catching is one thing, passing is another.
Well done. If you're Chaser, what things do you employ here to try and force Evans into error?
So I think that Brendan actually touched on earlier was when he passed Chaz, he'd been thinking about that move for about 5 laps. So what Brendan's doing now is just surveying and researching Evans' strengths and weaknesses. And we know here in the booth that Sector 1 is Brendan's strength. So I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for a lunge or a dive, it'll be on the same spot as Chaz. That's what I believe.
Gotcha. Yep. Turn 2.
It's a tricky track. There is potential for other spots into turn 4, crisscross into 5, dive bomb into turn 6, but where we have seen Leach has been super strong at turn 2. So whether he'll sit back at turn 1, try and get the momentum on the exit, and then go for another lunge at turn 2, but I'm sure Evans will be privy to that.
On this lap alone, it's gone 8 tenths to 6 tenths. It's now 0.46. Leach is close here with 3 minutes to go. You can forget Ojeda, he's bolted, controlling it, down to 15.2 seconds to lead over Chaz Mostert. It is on here. 3 minutes to go. Audi right in the toe of the Ferrari. Where will he make the move? Can he get it done at turn 2? Maybe not this time by. Could it be the next lap?
Well, he's getting a good run through here, Rusty. It could be this lap, it could be the next lap, but look, I would say it'd be a surprise with that. He's done it again. He's done it again into turn 2, and he's gone too deep. So Jackson Evans gone for the switchback, but it's such a long turn 2. Leach hangs it tough around the outside, and there you go. The surprise move into turn 2.
Well picked.
We called it here.
Well picked. Gets it done. Up into third place.
And that's it, I think. He's going to be released now, and what an excellent move that was. So 2 times in one race on 2 different Ferraris, both surprise manoeuvres from Brendan Leach. Kept it clean, ran it a little bit deep, but kept all 4 tyres on the track. And the beauty is the way that turn 2 is, he was just able to stay out there, and it's very hard to do a switchback.
A couple of other good stories. We detailed it before. Walden and Sheargold leading the AM class. 6th outright for GWR. Nice performance at the moment. They look like taking that out, taking out the class and a top 6 finish with time running out. 1 minute 43 remaining. Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia. Leach is driving this like it's qualifying at the moment. And that car we were just talking about, our Pro-Am leaders, he gets by on, our AM leaders rather, on the run down the Brabham Straight.
Yeah, that was a fantastic move, wasn't it, Rusty? With literally 3 minutes to go in the race. I mean, he literally had just got onto the back of Evans. It wasn't like he sat there for a few laps. I think he just knew that turn 2 was the spot, and he was going to send it, didn't he, James?
Well, as you had already said, the fact that he's surveying for such a long time, but he knows the strength of that Audi and what it can get done, and especially with the switchback coming into that entry into turn 3, the camber, everything that he would have played all into the strength. He sort of almost went a little bit deep on the brake, but was able to recover so nicely.
The beauty about these cars having ABS, you can just keep your foot hard into that brake pedal and pray that it pulls up. So, yeah, I think considering the, well, that Leach car was, you know, 20 seconds back at one point from car number 1, and to get it, oh, sorry, from the Evans car. So, to the fact that they've got that thing back onto the podium, I think they'll be more than happy with that.
I think Paul Lucitti was keeping just a lid on getting too excited when we were chatting with him there before. I wonder if the nerves and the excitement are now starting to bubble over, and rightly he should be too. Clock's about to count to 0. In theory, we should get 1 lap to go, I think, when he crosses the line this time around for Jayden Ojeda.
And this car started in position number 10. So, yeah, up to P1, and that gap's now about 10 seconds. But, yeah, as we know, the juice, as they call him, Jayden Ojeda, would just be cruising, bringing this car home. No risk, not using the tyres. You can just tell from the body language of the car that no risk, and the clock's just counted to 0. So, like I said, we'll be on the final lap, and, yeah, up 9 spots. Obviously, a bit of controversy, would you say, with everything that happened with those safety, or that one safety car period, should we say. But, hey, you can't argue with what the number 66 Mercedes have done. They've played everything to perfection, and they're going to come home with the fruit.
A couple of weekends in a row for the juice, for Jayden Ojeda, where there is a lot to be proud of. He's really beginning to show not just the Australian motorsport community, but even more broadly what he's capable of. Lots of people singing the praises of this young driver's talent. Paul Lucitti hopefully will be able to start that celebration that he's maybe kept a lid on for a few laps now. He sounded very calm there before with Chris Stubbs. But the Realtor Mercedes AMG is headed for the finish, James. Only a couple of corners to go. I know there'll be people that will question what played out in the race, and we'll be talking about it overnight, and of course when our coverage commences tomorrow. But you've got to concentrate on what's happening on screen right now, and it's Jayden Ojeda and Paul Lucitti who are headed for the finish line.
3 hours of GT racing finishes with this. And Ojeda will take the checkered flag. A mega effort. And it's Mostert in the Arise Racing Ferrari, who comes in behind him, 7.8225 seconds. That is a monstrous effort to close the gap from what was well over a minute. Only what feels like 10 minutes ago.
It was literally a minute behind after the last round of pit stops, so to get that down to 7 seconds, even if Ojeda, I mean, Ojeda's last lap was a 31.7, so, you know, there's a question mark on the true pace of that Mercedes with Ojeda. I mean, yeah, so no risk there. Here comes Leach. Let's see what lap time he does at the end here. See if he decides to do a lap record. Great job. I doubt it, but yeah, great job from the whole team at Dale ITM. Tim Miles, Brendan Leach.
I'll get 3rd place and 3rd in the Pro-Am class. They'll be absolutely pumped with that, and I reckon internationally they know what Brendan Leach is capable of, but I reckon more and more Australian race teams are waking up to that Kiwi's talent. Another great drive from him. And here are our AM class pairing. They started this race on the front row. Mike Sheargold, and at the wheel at the moment, Garth Walden. They'll be the first to the checkered flag here. AM class winners in the 3-hour Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. What a night of racing. A lot to debrief and to unpack in the wake of that, but they take the AM win.
Yeah, great job, considering that first stint that we were watching had a few question marks, but fantastic for the whole team at Garth Walden Racing. JP, the engineer there, Garth Walden, Mike Sheargold. But yeah, what a faultless performance from this team, this crew. They've got a little bit lucky there, but they didn't put a foot wrong. You can't argue with that.
And sometimes you've got to play to the cards you're dealt too,
Absolutely.
don't you? So, as we say, I know a lot of you are talking about it, both within the community and beyond, and we'll, as I said, we'll unpack it tomorrow once we've got an official statement. Let's deal in the facts that are now. And right now, Ojeda and Lucidi cross the line in the Realtor Tagani Motorsport Mercedes-AMG GT3. Our congratulations to you. Arise Racing GT. Liam Talbot helping to deliver in conjunction with Chaz Mostert, and on the run to the line with minutes to go, Brendan Leach for Dale ITM snatches that third place from Evans and Elliott Shute. What a drive by he and Tim Miles to complete the outright podium. Well done to Garth Walden and Mike Sheargold. Sheargold's turnaround privately and as a racer in the past 12 months has been remarkable. He's come on strong in 2024. Race 1 highlights for you, brought to you by Supercheap Auto Trade. We began as the sun was setting. The OnlyFans Audi in the hands of Paul Stokel would lead them away. We initially thought the Walden car was having a few handling woes, a few handling issues as it began to drift back. The action was on very early. Thankfully, as they came through 4, there was no dramas.
And we had some ops though. The number 81 entry Mark Rosser and Alex Peroni finding the fence and wasn't this close. The 181 OnlyFans entry and the number 1 Ferrari. The Arise Racing, just some absolute bump and run there with the Grove. That could have been the issue that we are already talking about.
And again, the telltale sparks flying for the Mercedes-AMG, which would later come to pit lane and retire from the race. An aggressive move from Brendan Leach, an exhilarating move, and he got the pass done at that stage. Grove gets by the second of the Arise Ferraris. Then it would be wheeled away. This was the contact with the Superbarn entry that brought out the safety car again. Down the inside. Gee, there's a bit of action between these two teams when you think about it tonight, wasn't there? So
we didn't even see that contact that occurred on the exit as well. So, yeah, and then here is the number 66 Mercedes. The Juice, Jaden Ojeda, crossing the line in first. And, yeah, I'm sure that'll be, as you said, Rusty, a lot to unpack from that one, from all sorts of reasons.
We're about to take you to Shannon's victory lane. Chris Stubbs is standing by there, not just with our outright winners, but also our very important class winners who've delivered on a night under lights here at Sydney Motorsport Park. Let's go to Chris.
Thank you very much. Our AM winners for tonight, Garth Walden and Mike Sheargold. That is a fantastic drive because early on in that race, looked like the car maybe wasn't quite in the window where you wanted it, Mike, starting from pole. To end here, 6 outright and the winners in AM, you must be thrilled.
Yeah, I mean, I had eyes like dinner plates off the start, and I think the rears were a bit under pressure, so I was bouncing around, and like we had a plan to filter in about 5th or 6th and came a bit further down than I'd hoped. But anyway, got in a rhythm, and then the puncture kind of threw everything out the window. But second stint I was really happy with, and yeah, we're on the top step, so happy days.
That's it. Everything that could have been thrown at you almost was in that one. Well done. That's a team effort, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously after the puncture early on in the race, yeah, we had a little bit of work to do. And then, yeah, went out in that last set. The car was a jet. The car's been a jet all weekend, and big credit to all the boys. Like, it's been comfortable to drive. We had some mechanical problem at the end, so with about 15 minutes to go, big vibration, so I had to back off, and it was getting pretty bad. So I don't know what happened, but we just made it to the end.
That's a problem for tomorrow. Enjoy tonight.
Cheers, mate. Cheers.
All right, we'll move on down to our winners from today for the Pro-Am. Paul Lucetti and Jaden Ojeda. We'll celebrate with both of you. Jaden, we'll grab you first if we can, mate. That is an awesome result. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. It was tough going. Obviously, we just drove it, saved some fuel at the end, and we knew the sort of gap to Chaz, and was just trying to manage it out. But yeah, it was tough. You know, there's like I got a lot of respect for the guys at Motorsport Australia. They make some hard decisions, but I feel like in the middle of the race they really got that wrong with us in the 888. But awesome credit to our team at Tagani Motorsport, and especially Matt Harvey. He smashed it today. The strategy was awesome. All I had to do was drive around slow and save fuel. He did all the hard work. So massive credit to all the team, and especially Paul as well. Like, to put together the program, he's developing week in, week out. So next year will be a serious push.
Jaden, well done.
Thank you.
So we'll grab Paul. You were a little nervous, I think, earlier on. You are a victor in an enduro for Fanatec GT World Challenge Australia, powered by AWS. How good is this moment?
Yeah, it's very amazing. It's didn't expect it at the start of the weekend. Like I said before, my pace was not quite there, but we pulled it together, and the team just come up with this strategy that got us the win, and Jaden nursed it home, and it's great event.
Jaden's a jet, and your team, they're all here around us. I mean, what do you say to them? To pull that one off is just remarkable.
Yeah, just a big thanks to all the guys, and let's go to the next one.
Celebrate tonight.
Right, yes, for sure. Cheers. Thank you.
Let them enjoy those celebrations. Indeed, big day of activity here. It's only day one, of course, of the Shannon Speed Series at Sydney Motorsport Park. Our schedule tomorrow, we're on air at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time. So join us for Australian Formula Open. We'll kick it off there. We've got all sorts coming your way tomorrow. Radical Cup's back, so too's production cars. 2 helpings of Super Cheap Auto TCR Australia. We've got the second hour of action. Another race to come for Monochrome GT4 Australia. That's happening just after lunch, and it'll continue right throughout the afternoon. More Formula Open and Radical Cup. And as I say, Super Cheap Auto TCR Australia Race 3. That will mean beyond here, there's only 3 races to go in the championship, and that is all in a few weeks' time at the Bathurst International. A massive thanks to Thomas Randall for joining us today. He's off to enjoy MotoGP tomorrow. For the rest of us, our team will be back with you tomorrow. The lights will go off at Sydney Motorsport Park. We'll be racing, hopefully, in bright, sunny conditions. On behalf of the Rainmaker team and everybody at Motorsport Australia, we'll catch you tomorrow. Bye for now.